Welcome to another episode of the Tree of Geek, episode 9, the Treefort Awards.
The Treefort Awards?
The Treefort Awards. What the heck is the Treefort Awards?
Well, this is our first annual, unless we're canceling ourselves. We will be coming here every single year, looking at the year behind us and picking out what we think is the best in certain geek type categories.
That's right. The last show posted of December each year is going to be our annual Treefort Awards. If you didn't vote, then that means you're not on our Instagram, Facebook, or many other platforms. YouTube. So head on over there. You can take a look. We did post the different categories that we're going to be looking at, and you could have absolutely put your input in. You still can if you want to just have a little bit of fun with it, but we're not going to rate it on air.
Yeah, go to treeofgeek.com and throw us a comment of why you thought our picks were amazing or why you think they're complete garbage. And, like I said, we're going to do this every year, so this is like an early Yule or Christmas present to all you, or Kwanzaa, or Hanukkah, whatever you guys are celebrating out there. Or if you're like, man, I ain't celebrating nothing, well, here's a free gift for you anyway.
Absolutely. And I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure some people are going to be writing in when they hear some of my picks. Because, look, opinions and movies are subjective, okay? Everybody has their own opinion, so don't judge me. I'm looking at you, Eric. Don't judge me.
Yeah, I'm going to look at you, John. I know. You're probably, by the time you hear this podcast, it'll probably be March, seeing how you're so far behind. But don't judge me, John.
Speaking of which, I just had a friend tell me they started listening to our Gen V podcast that we did a little while ago. And he said he got about a quarter, maybe halfway into it, and he turned it off. Because...
Positively or negatively?
Positively, because he said that, I haven't watched that yet. I need to catch up, because he didn't want to be spoiled.
Right.
It was about the time that we had the spoilers.
Well, speaking of spoilers...
There may be some mild spoilers today.
Maybe a couple little sprinkled in, but I'm going to try my best to broadly explain why I've picked my favorite in each category.
Yes.
That way, if somebody out there goes, oh man, I didn't even know that show existed or that property, they can go back and not be spoiled.
Absolutely. I like that idea. So we're going to dive into it here in just a second. But before we get going, as always, we're going to look at what is going on in the geek world today. Sorry, I'm not going to let you go first this time, H-Train, because I got one I really wanted to jump on.
I'll pump the brakes.
All
That's
right.
fine.
So I just saw that they have a casting for Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four, and I'm not happy. I'm not disappointed, but I'm also not happy. Have you seen that?
I have seen two names for a certain first family that have been thrown out there for two different roles.
All right, so I saw Pedro Pascal has been supposedly cast as Reed Richards or
I saw this on several different
Fantastic, which
sites as well that were, it sounded like Bing News is not just on some Reddit board somewhere. This is all over.
So I love him as an actor. He was great in The Mandalorian. He was great in The Last of Us. He was great in Game of Thrones.
Isn't he like 51?
But I love him as an actor. Let me get that out there.
Oh, he's amazing. Oprah Martell, come on.
I just don't think he's the right fit for Reed Richards. Reed Richards was middle-aged, but he was a short-tempered, but extremely smart, extremely cocky.
There's a comic where he slapped his wife back in the day.
Oh, wow. Now, some of you listening are probably thinking, no, that's not the Reed Richards I remember. Okay, so the Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four movies was more of the calm, just very, very
Ian
smart
Gufford,
Reed Richards. Well, who was it?
Ian Gufford,
yeah.
I do believe.
The one that we had in the most recent Fantastic Four, I can't remember, the younger kid, I can't remember his name.
I saw it once and tried to forget it.
Well, yeah, pretty much. He was more the cocky side of Reed Richards. Like, each one had their own portrayal. And it's time that we have the fairly muscular, fairly, extremely smart but arrogant Reed Richards, and I'm sorry, I don't see Pedro Pascal pulling that one off.
I know Multiverse of Madness gave us, the dream fan casting.
It was definitely a fan service, but I wish, with all I have, that they would have kept Krasinski for the actual movie.
Yes, John Krasinski, if anybody out there has watched his political thrillers.
Or Jim from The Office.
Yeah, the dude's in good shape, and he's a great actor. The other one I saw was Javier Bordeaux. He was supposedly going to be doing some sort of a Galactus deal. Not happy about that. He's more of a Bond villain.
Yeah, and
Great actor, but not for this.
and I've been seeing a lot of stuff lately that Jonathan Majors is very, very close to officially being dropped, and that they're going to scratch the Kang storyline altogether and go Doctor Doom for the MCU. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about it. I love Jonathan Majors as Kang, but I mean,
I just finished up Loki,
We'll
the other
get to
day,
that.
as you did as well.
Oh, yeah, I did.
And I don't want the guy to disappear. Personal life aside, hopefully everything gets ironed out. I'm not a judge, but I don't want to see the actor disappear.
Right. It's kind of like Ezra Miller to me. I didn't like the person. I thought that they were kind of scummy with some of the stuff that they were pulling in public, but they're still a decent actor. And I liked, not in The Flash, but I liked some of the stuff that he was in. Jonathan Majors, I'm rooting for you. I hope that everything works out and we get to keep you as Kang, but we'll see what happens.
Well, they also dropped the director of the Kang movie, and I think one of the writers, and
Yeah,
they're pretty
I saw
much kicking the door and saying, "Hey, we're starting over here."
Which they could do well or they could do it horribly. If they do it well, they'll just sideburner it and keep him as a threat in the background, maybe bring it back later. If they just cut it off, end it, it never existed, let's go to Doom now, I think that's a horrible way to do it.
Right. Like I've said in the previous podcast, don't rush Doom.
I just saw today that they have Marvel movies mapped out to like 2038.
I believe that.
Kevin Feige, stop. Slow down. Take what you have.
Let's not do some Avi, Arid, the guy from, did the old school Spider-Man and X-Men movies. Avi Arid. I think it's Avi Arid. We'll go with that. But let's not get into that territory. I don't really have any other news than that.
All right. Well, in that case, do you want to dive into this?
Yeah, well, how do we choose who gets to go first? Is that by the roll of a D20 possibly?
That's absolutely by the roll of a D20 that I have won all but one time on.
Well, let's see if your luck continues. There you go. Seeing as how you're the guest, you roll first.
A 9.
A 9. 9.
That
Here we
is
go.
not
All right, here we
good.
go. 19. 19.
All right.
So I guess I get to wear out my voice first.
So the format we were thinking, we're just going to go category by category, name
Sounds
it
good.
off, talk about it a little bit, and move on. I have an honorable mention for most of the categories.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we're talking about them, you'll talk about, well, I kind of like this one.
I was
But...
saying, and the worst part is, I was thinking about this on the way over today. We'll be doing this, and then you'll say something, and I'll be, oh yeah, can I have that instead? Because there's so many things.
Well, in some of these categories, I think will be sort of quick. You might lean more of a certain geek culture than I do, and vice versa. And to be honest, we don't have endless amounts of free time. So some of these, I guess I'm going to have to really push a little bit better next year to really dive into them. As in my first category, which is comic book series.
And by this, we are referring to actual comic books, be it digital or paper, not movies or TVs right now, but the actual comic books themselves.
Yes, the ones that you hold, the funny books that you hold in your hands.
That I have way too many of, if you ask my wife.
Yeah, you dropped off a really cool one today. I
did.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Conan! Well, Conan is not my pick. However, I did pick Moon Knight Volume 9. I chose this one because I was reading Moon Knight last year. And it's one of those things where I don't have a lot of time to get to the comic book store or to get online. I guess I used a lot of horror movie time instead of comic book time this last year. So it's kind of my default.
You're watching horror movies from every year for the past, 40 years?
Yeah, it's crazy. I did take a break the last week, though.
Oh, good,
good. I definitely took a break. Just to make sure I was getting my awards proper. So, yeah, I chose Moon Knight. Kind of cool things going. You got Venom popping up in there this year. He's dealing with all the vampires, the Midnight Mission things, pretty solid. I did read a couple issues of Doctor Strange. Had I read more, maybe I would have chose that. I think your pick is one that I also kind of agreed with, but it was very early in the series. But to boil it down and make it nice and easy, I chose Moon Knight Volume 9. What did you choose for your comic book series?
I originally had one thing, and I think it's the one you just referred to. It's still early on in the series.
Yeah, only 2 issues. Or
yeah,
in fact, next week, the 3rd issue drops. So
I kicked it over to an honorable mention. We'll get to it in a second. My official pick was actually a new series that they're doing in DC called Dawn of DC. Think of it as not a full reboot of the characters, but a reboot of their stories. We're not going back to origin stories, but we're picking up where they were left off in previous arcs. So I picked the Green Lantern, Dawn of DC.
I've seen covers for this.
We catch up to Hal Jordan. He has returned to Earth after, the escapades of whatever the last series was. I'll be honest, I didn't even read it.
No clue.
And he's got his ring that, from reading it, I've discovered he lost his Green Lantern ring. And this ring is made purely of his own willpower. So I do want to go back and read that series and see how all this happened, because it sounds pretty epic, to be honest with you.
Well, you got some reading to do.
I do. But we follow Hal Jordan as he returns to Earth, and he struggles to fit back into his own life. Carol Ferris, his ex-girlfriend or fiance. Blake Lively. Well, Carol Ferris in this comic book is actually engaged to somebody else. Nathan, I can't remember his last name.
Tramp.
And so
I'm kidding.
So a lot of it is Hal trying to fit back in, trying to get a job with Ferris, trying to get his love back, but at the same time dealing with the fact that he could be pulled away at any time.
So there's some good drama. That's what you pulled you into this one. It's what you made it for your pick, like the drama in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 5 issues out so far, and I've gotten through all 5, but I'm really liking it. And I like
you're waiting for 6, so that's...
In the, it was either 4th or 5th issue, the dynamic duo, not Batman and Robin, the Flash and Green Lantern join back up and take on a
That is a
together.
Classic buddy cop team up from way back in the day.
So happy to see it.
And which Flash is it with him in this one?
Barry Allen.
It is Barry
Allen.
It
is Barry Allen.
All right.
Blonde hair. Grant Gustin, I still love you, but the Flash does have blonde hair. Okay.
It's like sandy blonde hair. It's like Baywatch blonde hair.
It's got Sinestro. He's your main villain already. He
sounds like classics. They're hitting up the classics.
He's actually stuck on Earth. They didn't explain why yet. They just made comments to, like, his ring losing power, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on there.
Well, it looks like I'm going to have to check this one out.
It's a pretty good one. It is a pretty good one. My honorable mention, as we did say before, was my original pick, Predator versus Wolverine. There are 2 out of the, I think, 4 issues released.
Yeah, I'd read the first 2 during breakfast this morning.
Awesome. I'm loving it. It definitely has some flaws, as we talked about earlier. Not on mic, so we could talk about it again. But all in all, I'm still really enjoying it. But because it's so new, I didn't feel that it fit into the year category. Because the first Green Lantern came out, I think it was like March or April.
Yeah. So. And Moon Knight's been running the whole entire length.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, I think I started reading, which I didn't read enough to actually choose it as my pick, even though it was very interesting. Doctor Strange is back from the dead. But I think it started in around March as well, February or March.
Spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, go read Death of Doctor Strange from last year. It was really good. And shout out to Bat in the Sun. They do a live action version of Wolverine versus Predator. It's on YouTube. You can find it. It's pretty easy to find. It is pretty kick-ass.
I'm going to check that out. And speaking of Doctor Strange and my comic book obsession, do you know what I just found not that long ago?
I do not.
Strange Tales, Doctor Strange. I forget what number, but it was the very first time and the first appearance of the Living Tribunal.
No, I love me some cosmic beings.
I was pretty happy.
Love cosmic beings.
Pretty happy with that find.
Awesome.
I go, yard sailing, or heck, I'd go dumpster diving if
when
I
you
thought
find the number,
books.
shoot it to me so I can find it online to read it, because I'm curious about.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Moving on, our next category is comic book movies.
Comic book movies. Now you were gonna say exactly what I'm gonna say here. We split this up into 2. I know you went and you listened to our Spider-Man rankings. You're like, oh man, animated. Yeah. Well, we're going to be nice here. We're going to do 2 different categories. We're going to do animated and live action. So I'll quick run through my animated and toss it back over to you. I have a feeling some of these picks might be similar. We'll see. For animated comic book movie, I chose Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Why? Well, from start to finish, it's pretty much a pure out thrill ride. I mean, this thing is just, there's no breaks. It's going. I think it's exactly what you want in a comic book movie. The comedy, the drama, the action, they are all in perfect proportion with each other. It's not too slow. Moves pretty quick, but yet you don't even realize how long this movie is. Like, you want there to be more. Like,
I think it's close to 2 hours.
I think it is. Yeah, it's just, to steal a Spider-Man term, it's spectacular. It really is.
I thought it was amazing.
It made me, I guess, re-like Spider-Man more than what I have in the past.
And I know you're not a big Spider-Man person, so...
No, I haven't been, but I feel they're doing some things these days that are making me reevaluate my idea of Spider-Man, and this movie really, really helps. And there's so many characters that pop up in this movie, and like Lego Spider-Man. Come on, awesome.
Spider, or was it Spider Rex or whatever,
Yeah.
the T-Rex?
Yeah,
I love it.
fantastic.
Love it.
What was your pick for animated,
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
and why?
So I thought, all in all, that movie had an amazing story, an amazing soundtrack. The visuals weren't, to me, a movie. It was like watching art.
It's like watching a painting.
It was beautiful. I mean, just an example, and I'm sure you've noticed it, but to our listeners, if you go rewatch it and you didn't notice, without giving away any spoilers, there's a scene where Spider-Gwen or Gwen Stacy reunites with her dad after a little time apart. And the room coloring,
I'm telling you, it's a live action painting.
well, the room coloring, it's like watercolor, first off, this universe. And the room coloring is dark and not really dreary, but you can tell it's like tense. And then as things lighten up, the colors slowly fade into like a nicer pinks, and like there's something about the way they did it that you subconsciously feel better watching.
Those artists
Like,
deserve so much accolades and credit.
oh my word, yeah.
So much.
And I've said this before, the voice acting and the animation, the voice acting alone is something to talk about, but the animation, if you go back and you look up behind the scenes videos, they talk about how they did different aspects of the movie, different characters at different frame rates. I can't remember his name right now. The Spider Punk.
The British guy?
Yeah, Doogie, whatever. From what I was reading, they actually designed his character at a different frame rate, so like he would move at slower intervals than everybody else to give it that choppier, more anarchy look. Like they did.
Now watching it in my head, I see what you're saying.
They did things like that on purpose, and just that they took the time to look at that kind of detail is just mind blowing to me.
You could tell these people cared about the movie they were making for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And again, no spoilers, but if you watched it, you know how it ends. I will say it ends on a cliffhanger. Like most, movies, oh, there's going to be another one. No, this one ended, and I was actually mad. Not at the movie, but at the fact that like I wanted more now.
I completely understand. So I didn't read Lord of the Rings as a kid.
Okay.
I kind of heard like, oh, this is a Hobbit thing. I don't really know. Was it first in the universe? So I go see Fellowship of the Ring. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, that's it? Like,
you didn't know it was a trilogy?
Yeah, I had no idea there was going to be like 2 more movies. I was like, what the heck? Come on.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
guess that was my own ignorance.
I mean, I can say I finished this movie and I, not immediately, but I think it was the next day, watched it again. Because like I wanted more, and
total replay value.
Screen Rant, Screen Crush, Deep Dive, like all these YouTube channels that do breakdowns. I was going through every single one of them, and they're picking out Easter eggs, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go back and watch this. I gotta go back and watch this.
There's a reason it's the best movie of the year.
I know it's going on a limb, but I think it's probably the single best animated superhero movie we've ever gotten. Like, I think it's almost perfect. I really
definitely
do.
think there's an argument for that. I don't know if I agree. I'd have to look at some other contenders, but definitely a good argument for that. Yeah.
I could rant about that one this whole show. It was just so good.
We're gonna have to make another Spider-Man podcast. Oh my lord.
What about live action? Where'd you go with that?
Well, before I even get to live action, because live action contains actors, I would like to say my other piece of news that I completely forgot is not only is the writer's strike over, but the SAG strike is now over.
Yes, thank you.
I'm just so happy that we are going to be able to get some of these movies that they have gotten some dates pushed back, but I'm very happy that we are
well, I did see because
back
of that
where we need to be.
A lot of stuff got pushed to 2025.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Quality over quantity.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
which I will mention that again a little bit later, but we'll get to it.
Alrighty. My favorite live action comic book movie of the year is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Why? Well, for me, it was like an emotional punch. What was going on with Rocket and Quill, man, it just I don't know, it made me sad. I mean, I'm not going to give spoilers away, but there's some really there's some tough stuff in there. The villain that causes these things, the High Evolutionary. Now maybe he's not exactly what we wanted from the comics, but this guy is cold, he is cruel, he is one-minded, and he is definitely not, in my opinion, not part of the Marvel villain problem. In fact,
Okay.
I'd like to see him in some other things. But yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, each character got, I think, a decent ending. / continuation.
Okay.
It made me want to see Quill and some more things. And it made me curious about where some of these characters end up. Are they ever going to bring them back? Like, come back in 10, 15 years when we get more Marvel movies down the line. Let's see where they're at. Like, it didn't leave you on a cliffhanger, but it left some things open. And to be honest, there was a lot of comic book movies that came out this year that just didn't. Shazam, it was okay. Flash, I just watched the Marvels, and it was a lot darn better than I thought it was going to be, but it still didn't match this movie, so that's why I chose Galaxy 3.
Unfortunately, I did see that right now the Marvels is in the runnings to break the record of one of the largest flops in history.
Which is,
well, in Marvel.
It's horrible because, like I said, I watched it, and I think it's getting a lot of unnecessary negativity.
Now, no spoilers.
No, I'm not going to spoil anything, but
a friend of mine told me that there's a certain end credit scene that sets up something much bigger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it is true.
Yes.
Oh, that makes me.
Yeah, we can talk about it off mic, but yes, it is true.
All right.
I mean, but be that as it may, I don't believe that's what makes the whole entire movie. I mean, the villain is sympathetic. I thought the action and the comedy was a pretty good balance. It is a short movie. I mean, it feels like it's just like a Netflix special.
It's like 90 minutes, or
I don't remember exactly, but I think it's one of the shortest Marvel movies they've made. But there's not a lot of extra junk just laying around that movie. It still wasn't as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I might put it at the second spot of the year, though.
Okay.
But even Shazam, I thought, got more crap than it deserved.
Well, most of that was a lot because of Zachary Levi and his comments about the vaccine. And it just,
It's crap like that.
People
and
got
I don't care
political.
what you believe, but it ruins.
Yes.
All these people work on these movies, man, and they just get shafted because
one person has a different opinion.
Yeah, and like I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about Tom Cruise's opinion or nothing, man. Like give it's. I look at the movie as the product that
absolutely.
it is.
Yes.
You know?
The problem is people get political and they say, well, I'm not going to go see that because so-and-so said this.
Like, I don't like Elon Musk, but still, like, he's still helping send rockets into space and helping us do some really good things.
And you would still drive a Tesla. Somebody gave it to you.
You're damn right I would. I'd still, the guy down the street has 2 of them parked in his driveway. I'm a little bit jealous.
Oh, wow. Man, I'm lucky I can afford my cell phone.
Right?
All right, well, moving on. I feel it's time to jump over here.
Yeah, we'll go over.
I will say Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was my honorable mention for this.
Okay, I'm curious what beat it.
It's, my honorable mention because, and I know she's not going to hear this, my wife supports us, but she doesn't listen to this because it's not her forte. I'm waiting on you to watch the damn movie. I told her I'd watch it with her.
Come on.
Well, she wants to watch all the old ones first. And I'm like, okay, so we watched the first one.
Have her watch a YouTube video.
A few weeks later, I said, hey, do you want to watch the second one? And she said, I don't remember the first one. I'm like, we just watched it like 6 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever. So I think I'm going to have to sit her down and watch all 3 in one day. Like, I really do.
Yeah, pick a Saturday or Sunday and just roll.
For a while, she'd never seen all the MCU movies up until Endgame. Every night or every weekend, roughly, when we had a chance, when we'd lay in bed, we'd turn one on and watch it. And we did that for like 6 months till we got caught up, and then we got to go see, Endgame. And it was great. And then Tony Stark. And she has not watched a single one since. She won't. Except for the ones that we went to theater to see.
Well, would you really make her watch Quantumania?
So moving on. My comic book movie live action pick was Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Oh my. Okay. All right.
Now let me defend it.
Go ahead and defend it, buddy.
It is a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb. If you've listened to this podcast at all, you know that H-Train and I have a slight hatred towards critics. Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb. Yeah, you know what? You're great, but at the same time,
I think criticism has its place. It has its place to say, hey, listen, this is how the movie was made. Maybe you should have went in this direction or that. It's when people get overly negative. Criticism has its place to help evolve the genre, to evolve that medium of theater on the screen. Say, well, maybe this stuff's not working. These 3 movies did the same thing. It's not working. Critics have pointed that out. Change it. Fans don't want it. Critics don't want it. But when they're like, man, this is like the worst piece of garbage. The pacing was bad. The story was bad. The cinematography, the director shouldn't even have, like a pass to the studio. Like, there's a lot of good people who are working on these things. People are overly negative. That's the way that a lot of the world is now. Yeah. So, hey, everybody out there, this is my little message to you. Be nicer to your neighbors, man.
Lighten up. The CGI was rough in spots. A lot of spots.
MODOK.
MODOK shouldn't have been in the movie at all. Well, he should have, but it should not have been.
I wanted
Darren.
that guy
It
to
shouldn't
come
have been
back, but
Darren.
not as that.
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah, there were some plot holes, but there was also a lot of plot armor. And by that, I mean they changed things around to make it work just so it would fit the plot, which annoyed me quite a bit. But, you know, that's all.
that's times when you start shoehorning stuff into a timeline that like people can't
Right.
get out of. When Feige says, no, we're changing it, do
Right.
it.
Now, I know everything I've said so far is negative, but all in all, I thought the movie was fun.
I will give you that.
Now-
It was fun. I didn't hate the movie.
I understand. I mean, the studio was split between Black Panther and Ant-Man. A lot of the CGI people. So there was decisions that had to be made. They put most of their eggs in the Black Panther bucket thinking, and in my opinion, thinking, oh, Chadwick just passed. We need more over here because more people are going to go see it to see what we do. I'm not trying to be cold, but I feel like they
No,
were
I think
trying to
I think they might have played on
capitalize-
people's heartstrings
Yes.
to make a buck.
they were trying to capitalize on the idea of people are going to go even just because they, you know, because the main
Just
actor,
just out of honor. Yeah.
right. But I still feel that the movie was incredible fun. We got to see a little bit of the quantum realm in both movies. You know, the first one, Scott just kind of floating there, and then the second one, we got to see weird stuff as they looked for Janet. But in this one, it finally fulfilled our desire of, oh, I really want to see what's down there. I really want to, you know, they talk about it, and okay, great, but the whole movie could have been avoided if she'd have just told them what was down there.
True.
You know, that was my biggest pet peeve. But it was still so much fun. And in my opinion, getting to see Jonathan Majors as a full-on Kang, not He Who Remains, not, you know, Victor Timely. If you watch Loki, you know what that is. But as a full-blown Kang the Conqueror, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was rough. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was definitely rough. But I've watched it a couple times since. I really liked it.
I enjoyed it. I'm not sure why Bill Murray was there. I feel like that was a wasted
There's a
opportunity.
reason I didn't bring him up.
A big thing I hear online is Kang the Conqueror got beat by Ant-Man. And this is bullshit. And we don't like it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that final sequence. The motivation that Scott has to save everyone, to save his daughter, to save possibly the multiverse, whatever it may be. That scene where he says, I'll just sacrifice myself to stop you, showed how good of a true hero he was. And if people go, Ant-Man's not strong enough to beat Kang, it waters down Kang. I remind you that in DC Comics, the Atom killed Darkseid by giving him a lobotomy, going in his brain and killing Darkseid.
Well, I mean, the running joke everybody was saying is, why doesn't Ant-Man just go up Thanos' ass and expand and kill him?
Because this isn't Boy's universe.
Or Reddit.
Or Reddit. But I thought there was good heroics in there. I think a lot of the negative kind of gets thrown to the forefront because people like to bitch about it, but there was a lot of good in that movie.
Well, and even on that note, I mean, we're getting a little bit into spoiler territory, but it came out at the beginning of the year, so I think most people who are going to see it have seen it by now.
Right.
Based on everything that we've seen so far with like the quantum realm, and I mean, look at Darren and or MODOK. Just because he shrunk down, it didn't mean he was gone. And I saw some really cool theories online where people were saying, well, maybe that Kang that got sucked into the quantum super thingy, small ball hickey thing engine, maybe he's the one who eventually became He Who Remains. Maybe that.
I mean, the multiverse is just, it's crazy.
Right.
And
But I also think that they watered it down a little bit when it was, let's reopen a portal and bring them out. I do think the movie could have been significantly better if it ended with Scott and them, you know, stuck down there for now. I think that could have been a really, really cool twist.
nice adventure to go down and down, you know, for another adventure.
Yeah, but then people were saying, well, it'll just be a repeat of Ant-Man 2. But you know what?
Yeah, and I wasn't a fan of Ant-Man 2, so.
I like the movie. If you have a problem with that, write in. Say something. I dare you.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what you thought. Are we moving along here?
We are moving along.
The next category is comic book TV show. I chose Gen V. I chose it because you can listen to the Gen V podcast, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm kidding. I'm going to say just a little bit more.
See, that's called a cop-out.
Yeah. I think it had engaging characters who consistently made you question who is your favorite and should you even be rooting for them. I think there's fantastic character drama and interactions splattered in blood, man. The ending made my jaw drop just a smidge, and it had me scratching my head. characters I didn't like, I ended up liking at the end, and vice versa. It was just so much fun. And there is a couple action fight sequences that on paper just seem absolutely ridiculous, but on screen they were perfect and fabulous. I don't want to give too much away. If you really want to know spoilers about this one, go back and listen to our Gen V podcast. We really go into how much we loved this TV show, and I think it really explained why I chose it as my favorite over shows like Loki.
But
or
Gen V wasn't a comic book.
Gen V is a spinoff of The Boys that was originally a comic book.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. All right, yeah, no, I can get behind that. And yeah, absolutely. Go to treeofgeek.com and go to our previous episodes, and you can find the Gen V or Gen Geek episode. Listen to our thoughts on it. We literally recorded it. We recorded it immediately after watching the finale. So get in there and check that one out for sure.
What was your pick for your favorite comic book TV show?
Well, I was looking at Gen V, but I had to weigh out Gen V versus Loki Season 2.
So did I.
Because they were probably the two that really stood out above everything else. And they ran at the same time.
Well, I was going to pick She-Hulk, if that was this year.
No. So they ran at the same time. Sorry, I really didn't like She-Hulk. I didn't.
I liked very few parts.
I liked a few parts, but I thought the ending was one of the worst things that they ever did.
I wish it could just be retconned to where it didn't happen and we could just give it a redo.
The last episode?
The series, really.
The twerking?
Yeah, that can disappear.
Yeah.
We can cut this out if you want.
I ended up weighing out which one I liked best. And in the end, because they were, like I said, they aired at the same time, which one did I look forward to more each week? And for me, it fell on Loki Season 2. I just thought it was the perfect way to wrap up everything from Season 1 and Season 2, because Season 2 was the wrap-up. It also, in my opinion, was a beautiful full circle for Loki. Like, we got to see a completely different variant of Loki take a completely different life path and go full circle. I am going to say a little bit about that. So right now, I'll tell you, there is a spoiler warning. So skip ahead probably a minute, 30 seconds or so. There is the very last scene where he walks out of the airlock. And he says, like, I did it for all of us. And then they're like, no, Loki. And he walks out. It parallels the ending of Thor when he's hanging off the Rainbow Bridge and he says, I did this for all of us, or I'm paraphrasing. And Odin says, no, Loki, like, you did it for yourself, before he lets go and falls. It was if you can find someone who put the videos together, it's the exact same lines, just delivered completely differently. The way they went full circle with that, I just thought was outstanding. Because it showed a true character growth, and in my opinion, the biggest character growth in the entire MCU.
Interesting take.
Well, everything from his outfit when we first meet him being like gold and bright and I'm a king, to the ending of this, if you're back, no more spoilers, he was very modest, in my opinion.
Well, he got brought down to size a few times. Emotionally.
Yes, but even when in this show, season 1 and 2, when he realized that he could actually, he could take over some stuff. He could definitely get his throne. They even say in season 2, there's a line where he says, the last thing I want is a throne. And again, to me, it just showed an incredible character growth that you don't usually get.
Well, they say the best king is the one that doesn't want to be king.
Well, that is true. That is very true. Will there be a season 3? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't think so, but I did see a brief interview where Tom Hiddleston said, basically paraphrasing again, anyone who thinks this is the end of Loki is mistaken. So I do look for him to come back, but my theory is going to be in Secret Wars.
I agree.
So that's my take on comic book TV show. There was one other thing I wanted to say about it, but now I can't remember.
Well, I agree with everything you did say, but when I had to choose between the two shows, I found myself a little, just a smidge, a little more bored during Loki. And I thought that there was a few episodes where they kind of spun their wheels and repeated themselves a few times. And I know it's a time traveling show, but Gen V just had me more engaged. But they were both excellent shows. No knock against Loki. Yes. I think it was a perfect wrap up.
And no knock against Gen V.
I took the bloody puppets instead.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Oh man, that scene alone could have, if I'd have remembered that could have turned the tables there pretty quick. All right. So, gaming console of the year. Now, this one's a little subjective because no new consoles came out this year.
No, but there's plenty of them out there to choose from.
So what did you pick for that?
Well, I don't play a lot of video games, so let's not try to sugarcoat this. However, I do have a PS5 sitting upstairs, and that's the one I used the most, so that's the one I chose. So PS5. Yeah.
All right.
I don't own a newer Xbox. I almost chose my phone because that seems to be the one I use the most, but I guess for these purposes, I'll pick a PS5.
Did you ever download Stardew Valley?
No, I didn't pay the $8 yet.
Is it $8?
I think it's like $8.
Well, I got it was like $3.
Like
Jeez.
$7.99 or something like that. Yeah.
So, gaming console, I cheated. I'm not gonna lie, I cheated. I put my PC.
Well, that is a gaming console.
Yes and no. There's a huge argument that PCs aren't consoles.
There's some that are made specifically for gaming.
Look, I owned an Xbox Series X, which is the best of the best. And I currently own a PS5, which again is the best of the best. Which, if you look at them side by side, their specs are pretty darn similar. But my computer has always been there for me. I've never found a game that it couldn't run. And I know people out there are probably thinking like, "Oh, Crysis, it'll run Crysis." Thank you very much.
Sure.
Do you remember when Skyrim used to be the benchmark? Like, "Oh, can you run Skyrim on Ultra?"
I'll pretend that I do.
Okay, good enough. However, if I'm ticking people off by saying PC, let me go ahead and say if I have
it's your podcast.
If I have to pick one,
it's our podcast.
I almost said my Switch because I love my Switch.
Well, you can choose a Switch,
but I have to go with the PS5. Just because of the three mains: PS5, Xbox, and Switch. I like the controller the best. It's most comfortable, and it has PlayStation has always had, in my opinion, the best exclusives.
I play Wreckfest on it a lot, so just smashing cars. Yeah. It's fun.
So, well, speaking of which, exclusives and all that fun jazz. Our next category is the top video game of the year.
All right.
Now, so, for someone who doesn't really play video games, I had to phone
a friend. You phoned a couple friends. I phoned a couple friends, and only a couple answered me.
Now, you told me this story earlier. Go ahead and tell us, because I find this outstanding.
All right, so we got one of our close buddies. I'm not going to throw him on Front Street here, but I say, listen, man, I don't play video games. Hook me up with an answer. What do you got? So he tosses me his answer, and I was like, all right, well, why did you choose this answer? And he gives me a paragraph of like 6 or 7 sentences, and they basically say, I played it, and it seemed cool, and it was fun. So I says to my friend's wife, hey, asked your husband this question. She's like, why don't you ask my son instead? He plays video games too. I was like, well, he's at school. And she said, text him anyway. Because who cares about education, right?
This is more important.
Yeah. So I said, hey, buddy, what is the best video game of 2023? I asked your father, he gave me kind of a bland answer. And I put in quotations here. He said, Baldur's Gate 3 is pretty good and definitely Tears of the Kingdom along with Spider-Man 2. And I said, well, what of those three and why is the best? His response was, I think the overall best of these three games is Spider-Man 2, as it has the best story narrative and an amazing score and great mechanics being built from the first game. Shout out Malachi, he did great. So I'm choosing Spider-Man 2, which is apparently going to win a crap ton of awards.
Yeah.
So I have not played it, but the buddies that do play video games say that's the one to go to, as all do the commercials that are on all the time.
So
I'll throw it back over to you.
Not to keep ragging on our buddy, but when I DM'd a D&D game, and I'm very big whenever I'm the dungeon master setting up a new game, I want everybody to give me a good backstory, because I'm just going to throw this out there. If you can't relate to your character, then you're not invested. If you're not invested, you don't care if they die. I'll just roll up a new character. That's not what it's supposed to be.
No, when I make a guy, I want to be that guy.
You need to be able to
peed on somebody in a game once because if I was that character, that's what I would have done.
Well, that just took a really weird turn.
Well, it was a dead corpse. She deserved it. She was a sorceress lady. It doesn't matter.
So I asked everybody, please, give me backstories, and I got some people like multiple pages, some people, a page or two, and then he's telling me, oh, I got a good one. It's you're gonna love it, and he gives me like 4 sentences. He was raised by wolves. His parents were killed. He eats children. Obviously, that's not it. But it's like...
Peter the Wolf?
It's just like, this isn't a backstory. This is a spark note of a spark note.
And I guess in a very slight defense of our specific friend, you do gotta pull things out of him. He's a great guy. I love him to death. But you gotta yank some stuff out of this guy. Like it's like pulling teeth, man, sometimes.
You know who you are.
Yeah. So by the time you listen to this in February of 2025.
If ever.
Yeah, well, I asked 3 friends recently about the podcast, and they are all 3 episodes behind.
Wow, really?
Yeah, which
And
is
we
kind of
thought-
disappointing.
we thought
so
every
thank
other
you, whoever's
week-
listening to this on time, right before Christmas. Thank you,
You know,
for staying up to date.
That kind of
appreciate
annoys
it.
me because we went every other week thinking every week would be a
We'll
lot
give
of
people
work.
some time.
Would be a lot of work for us too. And every other week would get people, anticipating the next one. That means that you are 6 weeks behind people. 6 weeks. 3 episodes.
6 weeks, man. You're almost through probation period at the job. But I digress. I know some people got busy lives. Some people gave me some good answers. Other ones I'm not quite sure because
Hey,
you have time for other things.
Last
But hey,
time
whatever,
I talked to
man.
my brother, he listened to episode 0 and that was it. And I quote, I really should get on that.
Family hurts sometimes. We love them, but they hurt. But it's okay. Well, back to our loyal fans that are like, stop rambling.
Yeah.
Give us some answers. What's the best of the year?
My best video game choice of the year is Baldur's Gate 3. I
heard this a few times.
I sunk a lot of time into it. It is the closest thing to D&D that I feel you can get without actually sitting at a table and playing D&D.
I will say this. I was going to buy the Harry Potter game, which we didn't mention here. Didn't have the money for it. And I was like, I'll just save my money for when a Grand Theft Auto comes out. But then I heard about this Baldur's Gate, looked into it. You told me about it, other people. Whenever I do buy another game, which really sucks that you can't buy this not digitally, it's only sold digitally.
Oh,
so I'm
yeah.
going to have to spend $60 or $70. But this will be probably the actual next game I do buy because I want to play it. Unless I can get into a D&D game somewhere and that'll just take care of it for me. We'll
So,
see.
I did actually have Hogwarts Legacy on a list. I literally made a list for my list, trying to figure out what to pick here and there. And as much as I loved it, I felt it was still lacking. I'm not really sure what, but I felt it was lacking something. Baldur's Gate, it had, in my opinion, amazing voice acting. It had a phenomenal story and plot. It was pulling, lore from tabletop game that we actually play.
Hey, I get pretty activated when I start pointing and yelling at people across the table.
Well, this is true. I mean, and I honestly feel like it has a really, really good chance to hit Game of the Year. I think it could even beat Spider-Man. I really do.
Well, there's a lot of people that are really mad that Hogwarts is getting like no award nominations at all. So,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
again, I think a lot of that falls back to good old politics because people were mad with J.K. Rowling about it and something she
so
said.
some programmer's getting screwed because she's got an issue with people.
She
Okay.
said at the time of release, ticked people off.
Yeah, I know. I've read some of her comments about
Yeah, whatever.
just what. Yeah,
So that's where I'm at with that. But then honorable mention, like Malachi even said, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
oh, is that what he meant by Tears of the Kingdom?
Yes, yes.
I'm thinking like the old movie Tears of the Sun with Bruce Willis.
Wow.
I knew that wasn't a video game, but I didn't know. But I did hear that there was a Zelda game out. I just didn't know what it was, man.
It was a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild.
I haven't touched
On
my
Switch.
Switch in probably a year.
It's incredible. I mean, the game itself, it's gorgeous. It really is. Some
I
people
did see some screenshots of that. It does look very, very good.
I mean, and they really play with the idea of like a physics sandbox where you can take different things and kind of like glue them together and try and build stuff. And I've seen stuff online where people built like mechs walking around shooting missiles and like,
I love seeing video games that are supposed to be one way, and then even like the Harry Potter thing, they had like Shrek running around, all these modifications or I'm sorry, mods.
and it had a great story. It just did. I mean, all the Zelda stuff.
Ocarina in Time was pretty sick.
And
I watched a lot of people play it.
Speaking of which, a little bit of side geek news. I just read that Legend of Zelda has been greenlit to be the next movie.
I did read this as well.
Super Mario. Now they're going Zelda. If they do
I just
the
hope they make
same,
it serious though.
if they do the same thing they did with
Somewhat.
Mario, I think it could be amazing. Yes, it needs to be more of a serious movie.
Yeah, it still keep some comedy up in there. Well, they're bringing Shrek back too. Know that.
Yeah.
Another Shrek. Like I give a shit, but yeah,
Is
I
it
think
still Michael Myers?
it might be. I don't know. Maybe they get David Gordon Green to do this one.
The very last Shrek, they need Shrek to put on a Michael Myers mask, like from Halloween, and just start murdering everybody. Donkey. I mean,
That's why
everybody.
I made the joke about the director of the last 3 Halloween movies.
so they're gonna bring John Carpenter in to do Shrek.
He'd probably do a better job. Anyway, let's move it on.
All right, moving on to.
We're trying to hit all the categories for everybody.
All right, so our next category is something that I'm going to be totally honest with y'all. I know absolutely nothing about. I have nothing written down for the next 2 categories. So this, I'm going to turn 100% over to you. Go.
you are going to put me in a headlock and then do an over under and then do a schoolboy. Okay, I'll stop with the moves. Okay, so the next category is about wrestling. The next one is Wrestler of the Year. I chose Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and he's better than you, and you know it. 365 days plus as champ. His promos of recent matches have been on fire. His recent match with Kenny Omega was outstanding, showing that he's not just good on the mic, but he's also good in the ring as well. A lot of people have complained, he's just a microphone guy. He doesn't really have that much actual ring talent. Well, he's been showing steadily over the last year that he really can hold his own in the ring, especially against somebody like Kenny Omega, who's one of the greatest wrestlers ever to step between the ropes. Next year, when he becomes a free agent, there's going to be a crazy bidding war. Is AEW and Khan going to keep him? Is he going to go to WWE? And do the same old repetitive junk that WWE does with Vince McMahon and that crazy mustache? Who knows? Which I'll just go on to the next category, which is wrestling company. I chose AEW over WWE or any other little indie promotion. Well, and AEW uses a lot of indie wrestlers and promotions anyway. They got a good relationship with them. It's not PG, but it's not like old school Attitude Era. I think it keeps you engaged. I don't really know what's happening week to week. When you watch WWE, Roman Reigns is going to do this. John Cena is going to do that. It's the same junk every week. AEW keeps me on my heels a little bit more, and I appreciate it. So MJF, best wrestler of the year. He was the best wrestler of the year last year, and he might just be the best wrestler next year. And AEW keeps getting all of the people at WWE keep throwing away. Because of that, I think they're going to keep getting bigger and better, and they'll probably be the best promotion next year too.
All right.
I know I sped through that pretty quick, but yeah.
Well, so my favorite
For all you wrestler fans out there.
I don't know any.
Oh, you better choose the right one, brother.
Except for Hulk Hogan and Stephen Amell.
What about Macho Man Randy Savage?
I don't know what you just said.
He didn't know what he was saying half the time either.
Who was the one with the cowboy hat?
Oh, there was a couple guys with the cowboy hat.
Randy.
Cowboy Bob Orton?
No, so there was a mod you could get for Skyrim back in the day that it would change every dragon's head to
Jim Ross, so the commentator Jim Ross?
No, the one that I think it was the one that did like the Slim Jim commercials.
Yeah, that's Macho Man.
Yeah.
Slip into a Slim Jim.
Randy Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would change its head into that, and instead of like roaring, it would yell out catchphrases and stuff. It was hysterical.
I know you're not a huge wrestling guy.
No, not huge. Not at all. I know nothing.
Well, if you still want to watch something hilarious that you're like, wow, this is why wrestling's just nuts. There's promos out there. Get on YouTube. It's the easiest place to find it. And just type in Macho Man Cream of the Crop. And he does a promo with a little creamer, coffee creamer, and it is absolutely some of the best, hilarious, ridiculous promo work you will ever see in all of wrestling to this day. It
Interesting.
Is bar none hilarious.
Okay. I'm going to have to look this one up.
Oh, yeah.
So, in case you didn't notice, we got away from some of the geekier stuff for a few minutes, wrestling. Our next one is still a little geeky, but it's not, pop culture. It's scientific discoveries.
Big Bang Theory stuff,
So, I have a great one, in my opinion. I think it's pretty cool. But what do you have for the top scientific discovery of 2023?
Well, I don't think the James Webb Telescope is brand new in 2023. However, the photos that we got this last year were just amazing. Just the fact that we have a new and improved way to see our universe, to kind of even see back through time, is just fucking amazing. I feel like space, NASA, SpaceX, all that type of stuff now, a lot of S's there, but all that stuff now is just getting super exciting again. Like, it's not just, I'm just not looking at like Star Wars or Star Trek and be like, oh, this stuff's fun to watch. Like, actual reality. The fact that we're going to do a Mars mission, and the fact that we're seeing things from this telescope that we couldn't really see before, the info that's coming in, like, I don't even know what some of it even means. I have to like follow people on Instagram, like these amazing scientist people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and these other ladies that I watch that just explain it and dumb it down. I'm not thinking moronic, but like there's things that they're talking about that I didn't even know we were looking for. Or maybe we weren't and we just stumbled upon it. But this telescope has just given us, it's an amazing instrument to really see some things that I think is just going to help propel us to the future. Because we need to take care of our planet and we need to really see what's out there for the future, for the human race to prosper. I looked up some of these things the other day and it just sent me down a rabbit hole. I mean, we did just see water on an asteroid. That's awesome. I don't know if
Yeah.
that had to do with the James Webb Telescope, but still, that's awesome. So
No, it is. Yeah.
that's the scientific discovery stuff that I heard about this year. Other than all the other cool exoplanets that we're finding that have water possibly on them that are in the Goldilocks zone. Like I love hearing about, we found another planet that might just be like Earth. I'm like, woohoo, yeah. That stuff just gets me going. Gets my britches some friction. What about you?
So mine's not quite as exciting as that. Other worlds and Goldilocks, porridge, stuff like that. But I do know what the Goldilocks zone is. I'm just messing with
I'm sure you
Okay.
do. You're a smart dude, man.
So mine is something that's a little bit more in my wheelhouse is 3D printing.
Nice.
I've had 2 3D printers. I sold one. I still have one. My favorite thing is to print minis for D&D and stuff because
made me an awesome rabbit, dude.
The-
Paragon.
the resin printers are just, it's mind blowing that something like that can go in a home, just be commercially available like that. To me, it's incredible. But the thing that I find truly amazing is that researchers in Zurich have found a new way to do some 3D printing where they can actually 3D print multiple materials at the same time, which
Like different types, different compositions, like
Yeah.
different.
which isn't completely new, but most 3D printing uses some type of fast curing resin. And they found a way to do more 3D printing, but with a slower curing resin, which makes it more malleable. You can make it more flexible. You have more time to manipulate it. And the fact that they could do it with different types of material, well, they were able to print a robotic hand with bones, ligaments, and tendons, all completely different polymers in one print. Not like print them, put them together. They did it all in one shot.
Like different strata layers, just kind of. That's
And
crazy.
So the
Are they doing that with the organs too? Aren't they trying to like 3D print organs and stuff?
I was from my reading, yeah, they're working on something like more of an organic printer, but I think that's still a long ways away. But with this, they're saying that like if you have a robotic arm in a factory, if it's printed with more of these these softer materials, there's actually a significantly less threat to humans of getting injured working around them because it's softer. Like it's not gonna be like getting your arm caught in between 2 metal pieces. It's gonna be between 2 polymer whatevers that could actually flex around your arm and not break it off or snap it off or cut it off.
What I find funny is you think these factories are going to keep humans around.
Yeah, well. But then the other really, really cool thing is they were all saying this could be a massive step forward in prosthetics. I mean, they already know how to like manipulate your electrical signals in your muscles to make prosthetics move. Something like that could make it almost indistinguishable between
That's like some
prosthetics and
the Will Smith movie iRobot. There's that really
Yes.
cool kick-ass hand, arm, forearm. That
Yeah.
yeah. That's what that reminds me of.
I know we always joke that AI is going to kill us all and take over the world and robots, Terminator, but this is some pretty incredible stuff. It
It
really,
is
really
very
is.
incredible.
And
That's a good discovery.
I just thought it was absolutely fascinating.
Us humans are, if you look at the beginning of how long when our modern human started to today and the overall timeline of the entire Earth, depending on how long you think the Earth is, you will see that we are just like a sliver of that time. And what we've done in the sliver of that time, other than kill ourselves and have war, but the good positive things we've done technology wise is amazing.
Well, I mean, look at anything around you. Almost anything around you. Go back just 100 years.
Yeah, well, it
Like-
wouldn't be here.
Look at the light bulb. Go back 100 years. We didn't have LEDs. We didn't have color changing. We didn't have, the size of a tennis ball. We had, big fluorescent, or not
Well, about
fluorescent,
14 years ago, I was on the back porch of my mom's house before my stepdad passed away. And he was a little bit older gentleman. He was born in 1933. And I had a tablet, or no, it was my laptop at the time, sitting out there, and I was watching a movie. And I said, it's kind of crazy, Jim. I just thought about like this. Did they have TV? Like, he didn't have a TV in his house when he was a kid. But he's sitting here, from the 30s, the Depression era. He's in his 60s sitting here watching a movie on on this device. They didn't really have cars. And I think he had like a Model A or something, or T. Like that's all like his father owned.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just crazy how fast technology is moving.
Like, I look back just not even 20 years ago. To have a laptop meant you had money, like a lot of money. And most of them were...
Yeah, you weren't buying them for $250.
They were like these tiny little things that had like a gig of RAM tops. compared to today, my cell phone has significantly more power than my first laptop.
Doesn't the cell phone that we have today have more than the computer that they use
significantly
like
more?
NASA, like the first moon launch or something?
A Texas Instruments, the calculators,
Right.
the graphing calculator. If you know that I'm wrong, write in and tell me. But I remember reading that a TI-83 graphing calculator has more functionality and it's stronger than the computers that took us to the moon.
Yeah, maybe that's what I read.
Which is why a guy I work with very adamantly says we never went to the moon. We didn't have the technology. It's impossible.
There's a whole other podcast.
How did they do the math? And I'm like, paper and pencil. People were so much smarter than we were back then. We are so reliant on technology. I feel like some of the basics have been lost.
That's why I like the generation that you and I are in. We're right in the middle. We remember back when you did have to write cursive in school and you did have to get to the chalkboard, not this new laser board thing or whatever.
And we do know how to write a check.
Yes. However, we can still operate modern machinery. Where I think if you
with
took
ease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you took a kid born in 2008 and you tossed them back in 1985, they'd be like, what the hell is going on? They'd be completely lost.
My wife always says that she feels like she should have been born in more of the 40s because she loves that 50s, household. You got your stay-at-home mom.
The nuclear era.
You got the dad that goes to work. You got the kids playing outside. I'm like...
There's a movie they just made about that.
Like the white picket fence. Oh, what was that called?
Miss You, Dear.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Oh.
But...
Don't worry, dear.
Yeah. So to wrap up this huge rabbit trail of a category, scientific discoveries, I think we have made insane advancements in the past 100, or as you said...
I can't wait to figure out what our picks are going to be next year.
Oh, man. It's going to be like, they now have a robot that cleans your house, and it's not a Roomba.
Well, there you go. Technology, gotta love it. So our next category is on to fantasy, broken up here a little bit. The first part is fantasy book of the year. Now we're talking novella, novel, print.
Short story.
I barely read comic books, let alone a novel. So do you have a pick?
I always have a pick for books.
Oh, well then I'm going to give it to you, you
All right.
awesome avid reader.
So, yeah, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, not because I read, but because I don't have enough.
My eyes hurt.
I don't have enough time to read all the books that I want to read. I honestly got to a point where I have a book next to my bed I read, and then I would have a book on audiobook I'd listen to in the car. So I'd be doing 2 books at once. Then I discovered Mysterious Universe, and thanks a lot, guys. Now I listen to you all the time in the vehicle, and I haven't done an audiobook in months.
Those darn Aussies.
Oh, but it's such a good show.
Oh, it's fantastic.
The last one I listened to had Bigfoot, aliens, government conspiracy, cults. You never know what you're going to get with that show. Seriously. If you're into
it's very well made.
If you're into the weird, unexplained, supernatural, whatever, go check out Mysterious Universe. I know they're never going to hear this. They're never going to know how much I love.
Never say never.
Fantasy book for me. Yes, I've read quite a few. Fantasy, sci-fi. I even read a couple that weren't fiction, which for me is rare. I usually enjoy fiction because if you jump back to episode 1, you'll hear I use books as my escape. I love to just get out of my own head and go into a whole new world.
Off to Narnia we go.
But that all being said, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, The Druid's Call. Yes, that is a movie. The Druid's Call is a novel that came out right before the movie.
I was just going to ask because you put the last part of the title there, so I knew it wasn't the movie. Either that or you're going to be like, this is not the category I'm supposed to be reading. But all right, so
No.
they made a book.
So they made 2 books, right
okay.
before the movie. One was simply called Honor Among Thieves, and it was about getting the bulk of the crew together that they're reassembling in the movie.
Was it a prequel?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. And how many pages are we looking at about here?
I don't know, 300?
300?
Something.
Okay, yeah, not too bad.
So,
Double spaced.
But The Druid's Call, it is a completely side prequel that follows Doric, the little tiefling druid. It follows her story. It gives you a ton of backstory about her. Like, you understand why she's fighting those soldiers when you first meet her in the movie. You find out who she's living with. You find out why she's there. It's an incredible backstory that builds her up. And honestly, I feel like I enjoyed the movie so much more because I've read those books. because I knew that.
It laid the groundwork for
Oh
you.
yeah, I knew that little bit of backstory that really helped those characters come alive. And between the two books, I thought Druid's Call was just the better. It was fantastic. And I know a friend of ours that listens to this, he just messaged me the other day and said he finally got to read it. And he agreed that that was the better of the two.
Well, there you go. You got two people shouting it out that it's fantastic.
And I also loved that it gave you that little bit of extra knowledge. So like you go into it and you hear them say something and it's almost like an inside joke. You're like, I understand that reference.
Nice. I tell you what, if George R. R. Martin ever finishes up the Game of Thrones book, one of those Song of Ice and Fire deals, I might actually go, hey, I'm going to read that. But you
The
know,
whole series?
yeah, so I'm just going to hold out on reading any. No. I did print it off. I didn't buy it. I printed off like the history of the world of the
Wow.
planet of Westeros and Essos. Can't speak here properly. And I like encyclopedia type stuff. So when I'm reading about like the history of a country, fantastical or real, I find that very interesting.
Oh yeah. That's one
I gotta read
reason.
a book one of these days. man.
That's one
Gotta
reason I
read.
always loved Lord of the Rings is Tolkien built that
Oh,
world.
he went
Like,
crazy.
He built that world from the ground
I love
up.
the jokes that they make on the epic rap battle between George R. R. Martin and J.R. Tolkien. And he's like, we don't need the history on every fucking tree branch.
But you do.
Yeah, you kind of do if you really want to know what's going on. Yeah.
Well, I
Stephen
mean-
Colbert, he like knows all those branches and stuff.
I bet you George R. R. Martin would love Tech Knight. If you don't get that
man.
reference, you didn't listen to the Gen V. Go back and listen to the Gen V episode right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And write in is if you understand what the hell he was just talking about.
All right. So our next category, sticking with the fantasy, we move from book into what was your top pick for fantasy movie of the year?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say I didn't watch any fantasy movies this year either.
I call bull.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say my best fantasy movie of the year has to be Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I'm going to be quite clear. I didn't think there was a lot of really good fantasy movies that came out this year. I was like, man, what did I even watch in fantasy this year? You know, I don't watch a lot of horror movies, but I do try to branch out. I love fantasy movies, but I did think it was pretty good. Now, I did like the original movie from way back in the day. I know these don't really connect or anything, but I'm going to shout out to that movie because I saw it in theaters and I didn't think it was that bad. This movie is a lot better, a little bit longer. Is it funny? Yes. Is it action packed? Yes. Is it faithful to the tabletop game? I don't DM, but I think so. I mean, I played. The movie's a little bit longer than I thought, but it didn't drag on. I thought the performances were not phoned in at all. There's a couple actresses and actors that were in here that I've seen in some other things where I was like, I don't know about this, but I didn't really have any complaints. Hugh Grant, very funny villain. Like he's
So
he's a
Hugh
funny
Grant, when I saw that he was going to be in it, I was a little unhappy because a name that big, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's just there for the paycheck. But
yeah,
no,
you think he's gonna phone it in?
he was amazing, like absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely was. And the tiefling girl, the elf tiefling, like,
Dork.
yeah, she was
Oh yeah, I thought she was fantastic.
amazing.
And
Even Michelle Rodriguez, and that's the one I was really afraid of.
well, because she's very one-dimensional,
Yeah, I was like, oh, here we go. We got some Fast and Furious rolling up in here.
two-dimensional. She plays one character.
Yeah, she's very
I was waiting for her to like jump in a
Stuck in
car
her
and drive
ways.
away. But-
yeah.
So let me go ahead and just throw this out there. My pick was Honor Among Thieves as well. Okay.
There was some CGI in there that I thought wasn't bad. I thought that they would be like not have the proper budget. The gelatinous cube was pretty cool.
That was
the whole
very-
maze thing was
Yep.
pretty good, and the little Easter egg party that was thrown in there was pretty good as well.
The party from the original cartoon.
Yes,
Yes, I
that
loved
was
it.
sick.
So one of my favorite things about it though was from someone who plays and someone who's run games, and yeah, I mean, I guess I played for like 7 years or whatever. You could pick out like, oh, I know that spell. I know what they're using right now. Or like you could see different points where like they're trying to do something and they can't and then they get it. Well, it's not because they kept failing. No, they were failing their rules. Like it was like watching a tabletop game playing out in someone's head.
Well, the whole thing, even with don't spoil everything, but the stuff with the corpse.
Oh my gosh, that was hysterical.
Like I could see somebody making those same mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Like
well,
if you have a young kid playing with you.
well, I mean, and you even get stuff from the trailer when they say like,
I
oh,
can definitely see Silas making those mistakes.
oh, 100%,
Shout out Silas.
100%. No, from the trailer when they say about, oh, I make the plans, and if they fail, I make the plans, and then I make the plans, and she's like, well, what good are you? Well, I make the plans. That is how a freaking group runs. They're constantly making and remaking plans
You
when
just keep
inevitably
throwing stuff at whatever's going
fail.
on until you either all die,
Yep.
or you get a really couple lucky nat 20s.
The only thing that drove me truly nuts, though, was the scene where Dork is running out of the castle, changing into animal, which I thought was a super cool scene. But I don't know any way she had that many wild shapes from a D&D perspective. I don't know how she had that many
Different
wild
universe.
shapes.
Different universe.
No, this is one universe here.
Well, that's cool. We chose the same thing. There.
Yes. And I love the little name drops like, oh, there's Mordekainen's sigil, and those are all things that if you know the game.
Yeah, I'm not as versed as you, but I do. We've had conversations before.
Oh yeah.
And when I've talked to people about this movie that have played the game, they've gotten excited at certain points. You're like, okay, that's when you know when you have a fan base. Because I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people are very worried about this movie.
Well,
a lot of adaptions don't really go
when
well.
something is said that's not funny, but someone starts laughing because, like I said, it's like an inside joke to them, you know that the writers did their research. They went deep to get that deep cut that only true fans are going to understand.
Exactly.
And I will say this until the day I die, but their reverse heist of putting the mirror in the carriage was one of the best things I've ever seen. Like every part of it was so well done and funny at the same time. I loved it.
Completely agree. It was a wild ride.
I'm gonna go home and watch that movie tonight now.
I've heard that there's a very slim chance we're gonna get a sequel, which really saddens me. And I hope that some people get their heads out of their asses and realize that there is a fan base for this and they want to see a sequel.
I don't want a sequel per se. See, the way they wrote the original title card was Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. I would have loved to see an MCU style universe spool up where it'd be Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm not saying that I want to see
something and like have different parties doing different things. And then eventually you could have some big bad that like Endgame, the different parties join together to fight. And you could have all these different aspects and different,
shared universe.
You could even have like little tidbits of like, well, that's not how we do it because everybody plays differently.
Yeah, it's house rules.
Or like my staff doesn't do that. Oh, it's homebrew. Just little things that you could have the most fun with. And yeah,
I never thought about it that way.
Knowing that we might not get a sequel, it sucks. So I'm really hoping that they
even though
do something.
It was a hit at the box office. It still didn't make the money that they wanted because it didn't make end game numbers. These days, if you don't make end game numbers, it's a flop.
It used to be Titanic. Now it's Endgame.
Well, it used to be like, man, if you had 150, 180, like you were doing good. Now it's like, no, we need way more than that. So.
Yeah, no, I will stand by it. That was easily my favorite overall movie of the year.
Oh, if I ranked all of the movies, it would definitely come close to making the top 10, I think.
So we actually went to see it in theaters. We went down to Mount Vernon down in Virginia. Yeah, the home of George Washington.
Sure.
Did a tour around there, checked some stuff.
Cherry trees everywhere?
No, actually.
Did they all get chopped down?
Funny, I did see a bald eagle. I did see a bald eagle while we were there. But we were going somewhere the next day, and we're like, well, we got tons of time. Like, what do we want to do? And then we were looking like, well, there's a theater nearby. So we went, well, we'll go see what's playing. There's a restaurant nearby, too. So we were eating, and we're looking at it, and we're like, and I said, I'm like, you don't want to go see D&D, do you? And she's like, okay.
Well, there you go.
Well, if you can't see me because we're not on video, but I had a shocked look on my face because that's not like her to want to go see that movie. And she even enjoyed it. Like, it was, quote, fun for the whole family.
Well, that's what you want in a PG-13 movie.
And I mean, Bradley Cooper.
It was a hard PG-13 at times.
Bradley Cooper is a tiny little hobbit or halfling. That made me happy. I don't know why. I loved it.
Bradley Cooper's just.
He's
a
great
actor.
actor.
A lot of things.
Completely off topic, but I just watched the Silver Linings Playbook with my wife the other night. I'd never seen it before.
The Eagles movie?
Yeah. And he is fantastic in that, too.
He's good in everything.
He really is.
Yeah. So back over to me. Next category is the fantasy TV show. Couple choices here to choose from. I looked for a couple and I was like, I mean, that's 2022. I'll choose this one. That's 2022. So and I was like, I'm going to choose Willow. I love Willow. Willow. Disney made a TV show and I was like, oh, that's 2022. But you know what? I'm going to talk about it anyway. It's not my official pick. It's my runner-up. It did come out in November of last year. November to November. It's a full year. Disney canceled it. I guess it wasn't exactly what people thought it was going to be. And it's not getting a sequel. And not only did they cancel it, but these bastards took it off the streaming service for tax write-off purposes. They needed to purge their streaming service of a bunch of titles, and they took it off. So it didn't even get a 365-day run. They took it off.
Wow.
So now it had the soundtrack, had some metal, it had some pop. I think it even had a rap song, if I'm not too incorrect there. It wasn't exactly the straight up fantasy that the movie was, and it didn't go along with the books that were written after, the comics that were written after it.
See, that's a shame because the movie was amazing. I love the movie.
Dude, one of my all-time favorite childhood movies. I can put on right now and watch it. I love Mad Mardigan. I love Willow. It's a fantastic thing. I enjoyed the show.
Did Warwick Davis?
Warwick Davis come back. Leprechaun came back.
Okay.
Yeah, he came back. They kind of threw a little bit of a I guess an issue people have with Luke Skywalker. The way they changed him a little bit, they kind of did the same thing with Willow. I won't go to specifics. It's not like you guys can jump on streaming and watch it. Go pirate it. I don't know, but more people need to watch it. They just went in a crazier direction, but there was really good action, awesome characters in it. I think it got a lot more negativity than it deserves, and I'm shouting it out. And I'm really sad I'm not getting. They left a huge cliffhanger. They should have gave it a second season. Tried to fix the things that people didn't like in the first one, and then see, you know what, it still didn't work in season 2, then we'll cancel it. But they didn't even give them a shot to fix anything, which really sucks.
Or even like a straight streaming movie, something just to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But
Wow.
my actual pick is The Wheel of Time season 2. Why did I choose this show? I chose it because it's a great balance of drama and action. There's a good bit of tension, a lot of mystery. It's a very huge open world. I'm going to shout out to the people that do the set pieces in that movie. Now there is some CGI set pieces that you can tell, but it's not as glaringly bad as like Game of Thrones was in the last season. But there's a couple of times where they're walking through these cities, and these people that are building these buildings and making the tapestries, it's just fantastic. It's not crazy rated R, but it's not like PG-13. There's some blood and gore. The fight sequences, I think, are done not cheesily. They're not choppy. They're not. Some people like to film those where it's just a mile a minute. They're just flashing over here, over here, over here, over here. And it does it at a nice, good pace. And I never read the books. Wheel of Time is a huge fantasy book series. And from what I hear from a couple of podcasts I listen to, because sometimes these fantasy books and shows, they got all these names that you need to try to remember in places that all kind of sound similar. So sometimes when I hear other people talk about it, I get to soak it in a little bit more.
Right.
I listened to one the other day where the guy has read the entire series more than once, and his partner on the podcast has never read any of it. So it's cool that they're following the show.
It sounds like us.
Yeah, kind of, for some things, yeah. There's a couple movie tropes where I thought the characters were going to go one way, and they zagged it the other way, which I appreciated. I was like, oh, let's kind of like when we talked about in Gen V. You expected characters to act a certain way, and they don't. Improved CGI over season 1. It was just engaging. Like, I wanted to watch the next episode. I wanted more of it. And I cannot wait for season 3. I thought it was better than Rings of Power, and I love Lord of the Rings, but I thought it was better than that. Well, I don't think it was as good as House of the Dragon last year, but that probably would have, I think that's the best of 2022. But for 2023, I'm going to give it to The Wheel of Time. I think the fans are growing, I hope. And I hope we get an amazing season 3, because the way season 2 ended, wow.
Now, I know you've told me about it a few different times. I still haven't gotten a chance to watch it or anything like that. What's it on?
It is on Amazon Prime.
Okay. I'm going to have to make time for that one. Just what you told me earlier about one of the scenes. It definitely sounds engaging.
There's a couple graphic scenes in there.
So is it like T for teen or PG-18?
Well, there's not, like, Game of Thrones drops the F-bomb.
Well, yeah.
And there's boobies and there's wieners flopping around. There's none of that in here, but you see throats getting slit. You get some people getting impaled by some things. So they focus
more on the violence than the...
Yeah, but it's not non-stop violence. And there's a lot of these shows, they'll do exposition dumps. Somebody will talk for like 20 minutes. You're like, oh my God, okay, we get it. Like The Witcher. I wanted The Witcher season 3 to be a lot better. It was just boring.
Yep.
Boring. This show took all the cool action stuff that like The Witcher has, but then also gave you exciting character interactions where they're just talking, but they don't drag it on. I don't know. It's just a good balance, and I enjoyed it.
All right. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. So I'm going to slap the puck your direction.
Mine's nowhere near as exciting. You can go back to episode 6, I think it was, because I picked One Piece, the Netflix live action show. I really enjoyed it, and as far as
It's got a good. It's a fantastic world, though.
I mean, if you don't know our opinions on it, go back and listen to it. They're made pretty clear.
I don't think. Well, you're saying it like it's a negative, like we hated it. I don't think we hated it. We just
go back and listen to it.
It was there, you know.
No, yeah, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was great. I went into it
about
thinking it was going to be incredibly stupid, and I very quickly changed my tone to I'm looking forward to a second season. I really am. That being said, I felt it checked all the fantasy boxes. I mean, you had magic, you had pirates, you had
Adventure,
yeah. I wanted to pick
Twisted Metal.
No.
Joking. Who would pick Twisted Metal?
Okay, so I had Twisted Metal on my list under fantasy.
It was a placeholder.
It was a placeholder, okay. No, I wanted to pick Rings of Power, but then when I started looking into it, I'm just like, that was 2022. Shoot. So
2022 was good for fantasy. It was a good fantasy
I know a
year.
lot of people didn't like Rings of Power.
Oh, I liked it. I just liked Wheel of Time season 1 better.
See, I thought I loved it. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and I loved it, even though they changed quite a bit from the original source material.
I got an issue coming up with season 2 because one of the main villains of season 1 is getting recast. The guy has left.
Really?
The guy that like in charge of the elves, like the dark elf guy. Like he just killed it. But he's getting recast.
Oh, I don't like that.
So, yeah. I don't know how this guy was on Game of Thrones. That was there first, and they shortchanged him on that show. And now he's leaving this one. I'm like, man, come on.
But yeah, my pick for fantasy TV is One Piece. Go back and listen to that episode to get my full opinion. But it was entertaining. It was funny. I loved it. I mean,
good swashbuckling stuff.
Yes, it was just incredibly. It was just a fun watch. Like you just said, I was looking forward to the next episode. Yeah. I liked it.
Well, I don't think One Piece. You don't even have to take it like that seriously. Like you can just. I'm not saying sit on your cell phone as you're watching it, but it's just like a fun. Like you don't have to be like, wait, let's rewind and figure out what's going on now. I'm confused. Yes. Like it's a nice, easy, fun watch. And
I catch myself now watching other things. I forget what I was just watching, but I saw Emily Rudd, and I immediately recognized her from One Piece.
Is she related to Paul Rudd?
No.
Looked into this.
No. I looked into this before.
Did you?
She's
okay.
From what I could find, she's not.
Oh, well, that'd be funny if they did a movie together. Or a TV show.
That'd be great.
Yeah, maybe she'll show up in Ant-Man 4.
So, as a new casting that can act. Anyways.
Wow, I like that actress, but okay, all right. Moving along here to the next category.
Next category is we're jumping over from fantasy to sci-fi.
That's right.
Following the same pace, we're jumping into a sci-fi book. So I'm just going to go ahead and take...
What are you trying to say? I don't read books?
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I didn't read...
Okay, I'm sorry.
No sci-fi fantasy book for me.
Go ahead, you first. What book do you have? No book?
No book.
Okay, my turn. I picked... It's called It's called Jungle World by B.V. Larson. It is book number 19 in the Undying Mercenary series. I've mentioned this briefly once before. Jordan, if you're listening, Mike, if you're listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My buddy Jordan got me to read them.
I heard it was Jordan and Mike. Do you know Michael Jordan?
No.
Oh, are these friends your dream team?
They're in my D&D team group.
Good enough. All right, I'll shut up and let you continue.
No, so my buddy Jordan got me to read them, and I loved them. And my friend Mike, he was looking for something new. I mentioned it. Next thing he knows, he's fallen down that rabbit hole as well. And now we're all caught up, just sitting here waiting. Book number 20 just dropped.
It's a pretty good series. You got 20 books popped out there.
I may have that wrong.
I think Wheel of Time has a crap ton of books, too.
I may have it wrong. Jungle World might have been 18, and the new one might be 19, but there's at least 19.
Well, the one that came out in 2023 is the one you read.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's another one that just came out on normal book.
2 in a year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That author, he pumps them out fast, but the thing is, they kind of follow the same formula, so they're not totally predictable because things definitely change a lot, but they also follow the same formula. if that makes any sense. Like,
Is it a continuation of the same characters, or are there
absolutely,
new
yes.
characters every? Okay.
So each book.
So it's like a new Indiana Jones all the
right.
time. You know who Indiana Jones is. You know what he's going to do. It's like the same thing
Okay,
over and over.
we'll start at the beginning.
Oh no, this is a 2-hour podcast, man. You're killing me here.
Now, so the whole idea is that humanity has finally reached the stars. We're finally able to travel outside of our solar system. And almost immediately, we are noticed by the Galactic Empire, which is a bunch of very, very advanced races and civilizations.
So original.
I know. But we're told, hey, basically, you are now intergalactic. Congratulations. You either joined the Empire or we have to wipe you out now. Okay? But to join the Empire, you have to have something you can bring to the table. You have to have some type of trade good.
We have anime.
And it can't be a duplicate of what another civilization is already providing.
You know what a civilization has tentacles, man.
Well, actually, there's a race of squids in this book. So just
all right. Huh.
No, so humanity offers up soldiers, mercenaries, and they even say in the book, that's what humanity does best. We fight. Because by joining, you get credits to buy alien tech to further your civilization. So what does the world government decide? They buy revival machines. So any of the soldiers get basically chipped. If they die, their memory engrams are sent back. So, they get a new body printed out.
This is showing up on Showtime at some point soon. They got to be making a TV show. This is like the next Halo.
No, I would absolutely love to see this series become a show. Like, seriously.
As soon as you said regenerated soldiers in the future, they got to make a show about this.
Well,
and it'll only get 2 seasons.
Well, yeah, right.
And they'll cancel it.
Well, and it follows one main character and a couple side characters, and he pretty much screws every female on the ship at some point.
Oh, yeah, it's on Max. It's on
Max. But each book, it's titled something world, because they're different
worlds.
Well, they're different military campaigns. They go to these different planets. Different objectives, different jobs.
This would make a great TV show.
Well, so each one is completely different book-wise, but it always follows roughly the same formula, so it gets a little bit predictable. This last one, however, I felt they really changed it up. Like, they added an entirely new enemy, which forced other enemies to, like, basically truce to go against a new threat. And
it's the Borg.
Well, it really changed up how things were moving along, because you thought you saw where the series was going to end up, and I love it. What can I say? B.V. Larson, Undying Mercenary series. Go
I feel
check
like
it
I've
out.
heard that person's name before.
Probably from me.
Yeah, maybe.
I probably told you to read it, and you said no.
Yeah. When it gets to the TV, man, I'll get right on it.
There's another one I do have on here. That was another book series that I loved that did become a show, and we'll get to that. But if this became a TV show, I would be a very, very, very happy panda.
So, Dream, what studio? Like, who do you want this on Netflix? You want this on Hulu? You want this on Max?
Oh,
like,
man.
Who's doing this? Who's throwing the budget at it? Amazon's got budget.
I was just gonna say, seeing some of the stuff coming out of Amazon lately, I think that they could really pull it off.
Yeah,
I do. I'm looking mostly towards Gen V and The Boys. Like, seeing some of the incredible special effects that they've been pumping out lately. Yeah, I really think that Amazon could pull this off very, very clean.
Well, I mean, they already threw out the budget at Rings of Power and Wheel of Time. I mean, so they're churning, man.
Oh yeah.
I think Amazon's. I got money, man. I know, man. Like, wait till this holiday season's over. They're gonna get more money. So much money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they'll get more money for people returning stuff to buy new stuff. Oh, and this book barely made it, by the way. It came out in mid-January. So it barely made it into 2023.
Oh. Well, I mean, if it came out you're talking about like January 2023.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like 2 weeks earlier, it would have been.
Oh, okay. I got you. Who reads calendars? Apparently not this guy. Oh,
but I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, my interest is piqued. I might actually just look at a Wikipedia about it. That's good enough for this guy. So. Well,
they even went as far as to advertise like a new book coming out. They did a trailer, not live action, but it's kind of like drawings put to. I'll show it to you later. But you would honestly think it was a movie, and then it comes up like book coming soon, and you're like, oh.
I gotta read words. I gotta read my laptop for the next category.
What's the next category?
It is sci-fi movie.
What?
Yeah. So I decided to grab my old Dial of Destiny and call up old Indiana Jones as my pick for the best sci-fi 2023 movie. I thought it was a fitting end to the adventure of Indy. I think Ford playing an aging guy was fantastic. He's kind of stuck in the past. He's afraid of the future. You know, he's made a lot of mistakes. He doesn't know how to make up for those things. Like he killed it on screen. I loved how they dealt with his son, Boyd Holbrook. What a great actor. He was in a Predator movie. He was in Justified. He plays such a good, cold-hearted, I don't give a shit who I'm killing right now villain. Like, he wasn't the main villain. Mads Mikkelsen is the main villain of this movie. Boyd Holbrook is just ice cold, and I loved it. There's time travel. That's why it makes it a sci-fi. But when that actually comes into play, I think they did it not in a cheesy, stupid way. And I thought the whole entire kind of sequence that kind of sort of maybe kind of deals with it was pretty damn good.
So it got a 6.6 out of 10. Why?
Not for me. Sure, not, like to me, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for the record, that's another one that Danae, I am still waiting to watch with you.
Yeah, Danae, come on, man. You got to let them finish up Indy. You got to finish the series. Like, this is going to eat at you.
Now, is this going to be the end for Indiana? For
this
Harrison
is done.
Ford?
Harrison Ford said he's done.
Okay.
Like
okay.
I mean, who knows what the studio could do? They have the final say and stuff.
I
but
think
he's
4
not
movies
coming
is
back.
pretty respectable.
I mean, they've left it kind of open. They could do more, but
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull doesn't exist.
I disagree.
I was with it until the end.
There's some stuff that happens here that I think will make you happy about that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might give you a better taste in your mouth than maybe what that one left you with. Yeah.
Is Shia LaBeouf in it?
No spoilers. But
okay.
You know, I mean, he might be, might not be. I don't know. It might be hanging out
in
the window somewhere. But yeah, I just thought it gave me the old school Indiana Jones adventure that I wanted. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's better than the first 3, but it is better than Crystal Skull. And some new cast additions were pretty cool. They brought back some older characters, and they did them justice. Yeah, I mean, they gave him some cool little parts.
So it wasn't back?
Forced.
They brought Gimli?
Yeah, he's in here for a minute. Yeah.
So real quick, without thinking, what was your absolute favorite movie of Indiana Jones?
Oh, it would have to be Last Crusade.
I agree.
Yeah, Last Crusade, then probably the first one, then Temple of Doom, then this one, and then
Crystal Skull.
And listen, I'm not going to say Crystal Skull was like fantastic, but I'd still give it a 7 out of 10. If it wasn't for the stupid monkey swinging vine thing, I wouldn't have.
That was rough.
Yeah, that's the worst part of the whole movie.
That was very rough.
You know, I like the mean Ruskies, but good villains. But yeah, there you go. That's my choice. I'm going to toss the big skin your direction.
Lots of sports metaphors tonight.
Yeah, well, it's a rough time in sports right now. Even though Michigan is 10-0 at this point.
All right. Well, this is going to be another one that I'm probably going to catch a lot of hate for. Maybe I just have really bad taste, okay? I don't know.
I've seemed to have partially liked your stuff, your picks.
IMDb put it at a 5.4 out of 10, which right off the bat, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's a 54% on a test. Like, that is pretty low. But I'm going to go with it anyways. I'm going to stick to my guns here. Anyone who knows me knows that I love dinosaurs. I've always loved, you know.
Oh, I know what you're going to pick here.
I loved Jurassic Park, the original, Lost World. Okay, not too bad. Jurassic Park 3, okay, I can work with it.
Disagree.
You didn't like it?
No, I did like it.
Okay, I said I could work with it.
You were like,
I could work with it.
I was like, ooh, I like this movie.
I did, however, hear a theory recently that explains a lot more about the Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3, but I'll tell you about that later. It actually makes it make a lot more sense.
It made sense to me already, but I'll definitely listen to you.
And then the Jurassic World movies, I mean, I like a good dinosaur movie.
Still didn't finish that last one.
But, yeah, those...
Kind of like they should stop making these movies. It's like we had an episode about stop making these movies.
I enjoyed Camp Cretaceous, the Netflix animated movie, more than I did the last Jurassic World movie. It was actually really well done. I liked it. All of this being said, has nothing to do with Jurassic Park.
Because I'm pretty sure you're picking Jurassic Park somehow for your favorite 2023 sci-fi movie.
Nope, I am picking the movie 65.
65 what?
65.
I'm just...
Yeah. The movie's called 65. It stars Adam Driver and some younger little girl.
No idea who she was. I did see this movie.
his daughter in the movie is actually the one that plays the daughter in Honor Among Thieves.
Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Yes, it is basically a carbon copy facelift of After Earth with Will Smith. We crashed on a planet. The biggest difference is this is prehistoric Earth, and the more
I like that Will Smith movie.
it wasn't bad. It just wasn't something I go back and rewatch because I feel like it. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I caught it on TV, I'd watch it. Which you don't just catch things on TV anymore. You select them.
Right.
But with this, it didn't feel like your normal Jurassic Park. This was literally we need to get from point A to point B. I don't know what's out there. God help us. And it wasn't, we're being hunted by a Spinosaurus like in JP3. It was...
No, it's just like they were in Australia and everything wants to kill you.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Because if you were transported to that time, everything would be trying to kill you.
And I read...
Because they need to eat.
And I was reading online, one of the biggest complaints was, well, the main... dinosaurs, they look like raptors or whatever, but they're not even real. Like,
this
what are
is a different
they?
universe. This isn't our universe.
They're
It's a
lizards. To this day, there's still arguments if they had scales or feathers. Like, I mean, come on. We don't know what everything looked like back then. There could have been some big thing. Who cares? It's a movie.
That's the negative nitpicking, man.
I really enjoyed it. Like, a lot.
It was a placeholder of mine on here until I was like, oh, Indiana Jones has sci-fi in it. I'll choose that. Because if not, I was going to choose 65 as well.
And I also love that towards the end, like, it wasn't like the dinosaurs were invincible. No, he dropped 2 T-Rexes just to have a much, much bigger one come out of the woodworks. But it gave it real stakes of, okay, they have one shot to get off the planet, and he's basically leading this thing away. Is he going to get stranded? Is she going to leave? Are they both going to get
I liked the way they tried to use this futuristic back then technology, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, it's futuristic technology and how it's still
like the projector and stuff.
Yeah, like all that type of it still wasn't perfect. Like stuff still malfunctioned and things didn't it didn't like, oh, I'm from the future and I can just magically, like I have sorcery powers, just fix my situation. Well, like he still had to fight.
Yeah, and it was okay. Just because you can do space travel, that doesn't mean everything's perfect. Like look at Alien. Just because they could travel through space, they still had their share of issues.
Yeah, Space Marines still had their asses handed to them.
So yeah, my pick falls very firmly on top of 65, and I say give it another watch. Anybody out there who doesn't like it,
I think it has rewatchability.
It's not as bad as you think.
Even if the ending. Now there is a spot or two when it's dark. The CGI is a bit shifty.
When they're in the cave.
Yeah, there's a couple times, but if you just put on your blinders and not nitpick shit, it's a good movie. Yeah, a good runner-up for me. So the next part of sci-fi trickles down to the TV show. What, to me, is the best 2023 sci-fi TV show? Now, there's a lot, I think, of good sci-fi shows out there, and I kind of went back and forth, and then it hit me like a hammer in the head. Dude, why are you not picking Picard Season 3?
All right, so I honestly was wondering if Star Trek was anywhere on here, on your list.
Well, there's no Star Trek movies. So I couldn't choose those.
There's multiple series. There was the cartoon,
Yeah. I did love Strange New Worlds. That was another contender. That if Picard Season 3 hadn't come out, I'd pick SNG 3 Season 3. But Picard Season 3 brought back all those old emotions that reminded me why I loved old school Star Trek. Picard Season 1 I thought was cool, and I think people are unfairly harsh on Season 2, even though it had a good bit of problems. It did get boring at times. Now, they brought in a guy called Terry Matalas, who is a Star Trek super fan. Like, he grew up watching The Next Generation as a kid. He's around our age. He watched it with his father. So he gets through the ranks of cinema, finally gets to the point he can become a showrunner, a writer, a creator of a show. He picks up Picard Season 3. He brings back all of the characters of the original TNG show, brings in characters from Voyager and all the different shows, Deep Space Nine.
Will Wheaton
does not show up in this, and even him on his own podcast explains why he was in Season 2 but not Season 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a little spoiler there, there's no Will Wheaton in this one.
We'll have to have Will Wheaton on our show.
I would love to sit down and talk to Will Wheaton. I would. I think he's a cool dude. The way that this thing is just crafted it's like he knew exactly what fans wanted to see, but it wasn't just straight up fan service. It actually served the purpose of a story. Now, it might have not have been the most original story everywhere, but when you see some of these old school characters reconnect, it's just, if you're a Star Trek fan, like, you get it. And it wasn't just all talk. Like, there's a lot of good action and very well done CGI in this. Good space battles. There's a couple episodes where I thought some of these characters just weren't going to make it. I was like, man, there's no way they're making it to the end. Like, some of them are still scattered. Like, are we ever going to see them together? And there's
like classic characters.
Yeah, there's a couple Easter eggs for some original, some Star Trek the original series.
The only one
stuff.
I watched.
Yeah, like there's a couple references to a character in there that you're like, oh, are they? They left it open, and the fact that they left this open, there's an ending. I'm not going to tell people the ending of this, but the very ending, the very, very ending of this says, hey, listen, there could be a whole new series with these characters that are left over here. Like, he paved a golden road.
So, like, not season 4, a whole spin-off series.
A whole spin-off series.
Wow.
Paramount is saying that Discovery is ending this year, put out its final season. Strange New Worlds has been renewed for another one, but Picard's going off. They've been cutting down how much TV shows they're putting on their streaming service. They're trying to budget back, so they might not be putting as much money back into Star Trek, because there might be a made-for-TV movie coming out that I really don't want to see at all. Like, it just doesn't sound interesting to me. But, I mean, this guy's made it perfect for the next season of this, for the next spinoff. And it just hit everything you wanted from a finale. Perfect endings. A lot of these shows and movies I picked have perfect endings for people. You know, if you really think about the Guardians of the Galaxy and Loki, like, that you chose, that I almost chose, like, it just wraps up these characters so well. Yeah. And there's so much I'd love to say, but it'll spoil so much, and I really don't want to spoil this for people. I just know, if you're a Star Trek fan, it's probably one of the best seasons of all Star Trek anywhere that you're going to find, in my opinion. I'm dead serious.
That's some pretty big claims.
Yeah, and I'll stick by them. Yeah, and if you disagree and say that was junk, write in and let me know, and we'll have a conversation.
treeofgeek.com, contact us, let us know your feelings on all this.
What was your favorite 2023 sci-fi TV show?
So it probably won't come as a surprise to you, but it's a show based on a book that I read. The show is called Silo. It's based on...
I've heard of this.
It's based on a trilogy by Hugh Howey. The books were Wool, Dust, and Shift.
I think this is on a list I wrote somewhere of shows I want to watch.
I loved it because I thought a book to TV show adaptation, they're going to lose something. You know, it's going to get rushed or what.
I think I even saw a trailer for this.
They took this season and covered only book number 1. So it ended on the cliffhanger. Just
so there's going to be 3 seasons then.
Unless they cancel it, there has to be 3 seasons to fill the whole story.
Okay.
It is one of the best trilogies I've ever read.
Give me a very vague synopsis of what this is about.
Very vague. Okay. Society lives in a massive silo underground. And by silo, it's not like a corn silo. They call it
not like the one right down here by the barn.
They call it that because, like, yeah, it is a big, circular, but each level has houses and stores and apartments, and the further down you go, the more industrial it goes, until you get to the very bottom where the big generators at. The top is more for the mayor that runs the whole thing. And,
this is like that ice train show.
Well, in IT,
Snowpiercer, only it's underground.
IT is on one of the floors. I can't remember, like 30 or something like that. And you find out that they're actually incredibly important because they manage a lot of the electrical stuff. And
so it's like a society type show.
Right. And
that's
you
interesting.
Can't go outside. The entire thing is in this silo. They are a completely confined society. They've been there for so long. Everyone alive in the show was born in there. Like, nobody knows what it's like outside. Nobody knows what life before it was really like. Because
I got some predictions about this, and I hope I'm wrong.
Because they purged all that information. They don't want people to know what it was like before because, it'll
somebody's
cause...
in control.
Oh, it goes very deep. Very, very deep. You don't find out until the 3rd season exactly what is going on, but...
This sounds interesting. I'm gonna watch this.
If you commit a crime serious enough, you get sent outside to clean. And it's a death sentence.
Except for the outside's perfectly fine. Those people are living.
Well, they have cameras outside that you can see the landscape, and everything's dead. It looks like a nuclear holocaust from our point of view. And when they go out, they get sent out to clean off the cameras because they get dusty and dirty, and you can't see outside anymore. Well, once you go out to clean, okay, that's
Deuces.
it. Yeah, peace. See you later.
Huh. Well, this sounds.
And they
very
always
interesting.
say about how, like, well, why do people clean if they're going out? They know they're going out to die. Why don't a big glass, middle finger not clean the cameras like they're supposed to? Everyone always cleans. And that's a running thing. Like, why? Well, the whole story follows.
Well, don't tell us why.
I'm
I
not
don't wanna
going
know
to.
why. Okay, all right, all right.
No, the whole story follows Juliet, who, through a series of events, becomes mayor. And she used to just be an engineer down at the very bottom. She knows nothing about being mayor. She is, or not mayor, sorry, sheriff. Sheriff is like the head of.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop you
Yeah.
there because this is becoming more than vague. Now I'm starting
No,
to
no.
actually find out what's going on.
Oh
here.
no, this is all in the very first episode. Like,
Okay.
doesn't take
all right.
long at all. And you find out very quickly that there may or may not be more information privy to certain people in certain areas of power than other people. And being sheriff, she starts to dig into some stuff and ruffle some feathers. I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
If we go into the second book, things get significantly more intense. The third book, if they do it right, I'm going to be blown away because they did this first season right. Like,
Where do I stream this at?
I want to say it was Apple TV.
That sounds about right.
I'm pretty sure it was Apple TV.
They seem to have a lot of good shows.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Maybe they could do Undying Mercenaries.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh, they got some good sci-fi going on so
But
far.
from a book to TV show adaptation, I can't honestly tell you anything I've seen that I think they've done better. Like, they really captured the little details. The cast was amazing. Tim Robbins is in it. He played Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption.
That was about the time Andy Dufresne said, "I'm not living in this silo anymore."
The main character, I can't remember the actress's name, but did you see The Greatest Showman?
Hacking fraud over here.
Did you
Horrible.
see The Greatest Showman?
No.
All right, well, then never mind. But she sings in that movie. What good are you? Jeez,
I'm not a big musical guy.
it's a very good movie. But yeah, so that's my pick. It is a fantastic
Well, you got
book.
me intrigued.
Absolutely fantastic book series. Like I said, there's 3 of them. The show, it held very, very firmly to
I'm
the
gonna
book.
sign up for Apple right now.
Go do it. I was going to put down, and I have it written here with a sad face, Peripheral.
I
because
watched most of the first season there.
Great, very difficult to read book. I didn't get very far into it. I stopped for a while because
It's a hard to follow show.
the book jumps around a lot too. And the
Oh.
show jumps around a lot.
So when he kills the guys in the car, man, the bikers in the hot car, that shit was awesome.
that was pretty.
that was pretty cool.
That was pretty
Best
intense.
scene that I saw on the show.
But
Yeah.
because that was 2022, I had to go Silo. Silo is definitely worth watching. Seriously, go check it out.
I am going to check it out because I just finished up a few shows, so we're looking for something new to watch. So before we get to the last one, your last one, I decided to pepper in a couple extra categories. I'll be
What the heck?
Well, listen, I thought there were some other things that you had a chance
No,
to
it's
look
good.
at my picks.
It's good. Make me look bad. No big deal.
Okay, well, I picked a documentary. And
Oh.
my favorite documentary was Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story. The reason I chose this is because it doesn't just focus on his time as Freddy Krueger. It talks about his pre-rise to fame and what he did after and what he's doing now, how it's affected his life, but how he's always embraced it, but always wanted to do things differently. A lot of different actors and directors in there to talk about Mr. Englund and his wife. And I learned a lot of things I didn't know about. And they even shot out Galaxy of Terror that he was in, which was absolutely terrible.
Wow.
But the fact that they threw that in the documentary
Deep cuts.
was pretty cool. Yeah, that was definitely a deep cut. I also chose a horror movie because I feel that us
Why?
horror fans,
Why does that not surprise me?
we need to we have our own corner of the geek kingdom out there. And I chose Evil Dead Rise because I felt like this movie ripped into high gear within the first few minutes, and the gore grew and grew and grew from there. No character was safe from the evil, no matter how old they were, where they were from, didn't matter. The Evil Dead was coming for them, and they didn't play any games in this one, and I really enjoyed that. It was very respectful to the original trilogy, but had a lot of good ties, I believe, to the 2013 movie, and it was It was either that or Scream 6. But the more I thought about Scream 6 and the ridiculous nature of some of it, even though I really enjoyed it, I thought this one was just amped up way more. And of course, I had to pick a horror TV show. I didn't pick a horror novel.
Oh, of course.
You probably read one. But I picked a horror TV show because I wanted to shout out From. From. Just the word From. It's on season 2. Season 2 came out this year. Long story short, a bunch of people from across the country in different times keep getting trapped in this town, and they cannot leave this town. And at night, these creatures try to kill them, and they have to be stuck inside.
That's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. And the character diversity of this, it's like Lost on crack. Just like scary crack, like you're on taking a bad trip sometimes. And they even have a guy that was on Lost is in this one. So he plays like the sheriff dude. And the creatures are vicious and they're scary. The mystery keeps unraveling. And there's a couple characters that they have in here that are just bonkers. And I love every second of them. And I always want to see the next episode. The way that season 2 ended, I was like, no, I need season 3. Please give it to me. And Who knows? It's on MGM Plus. So who knows when I'll.
Are you a fan of, was it the American Horror Stories?
We've been watching them. They're okay. I lost interest in that show.
Oh,
This last season, Delicate, it's boring as hell. It's about pregnancy. It's got Kim Kardashian in it, for goodness sakes. Now, credit to all her success, whatever. But this season sucks. It sucks. It's boring. I don't like it. And
Was it Miley Cyrus in a season? Or no?
Maybe.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah, she was in like 5 seasons ago.
Oh,
Hotel
really?
or something.
Okay.
I never finished that thing.
I've never seen it. I just know that like all these
the first 3 seasons were
random
cool,
big names
and
keep
then after
popping
that,
up.
just got boring. It was like The Walking Dead. It ran its course, and they needed to just stop. I should have put that one on the Dead Horse Beatdown TV show.
Yeah.
Stop making American Horror Stories. Be that as it may, I will jump back up to our actual final category.
Well, so I did have one that I was going to ask after the final, but since you had your own access,
yeah.
I'll go ahead and ask it now.
Do it.
What would you say is your top or favorite Tree of Geek episode from this year so far?
That I've listened to or we've recorded?
That we've done.
Oh.
This is the last episode of the year. So you have everyone that we've done from the beginning, which was, I think, August, to pick from.
I don't know. I like Dark Side of the Tree. I thought we had some good cohesion there. I think we have found in the course...
Not Gen V, where we recorded it twice.
Oh, my God. I was sick, too. Listen, our first episode was a bit rough. We had to learn the whole technology-wise thing. I mean, and I appreciate you for letting a lot of that rest on your shoulders. And even finding a good chemistry of how to shoot things back and forth. Tried a couple little different things. I think we were finding our groove. And that was one of the later episodes, I think, where we really, really gelled. So I'm going to choose the Dark Side of the Tree. I think that's when we really hit our stride. What about you?
I leaned a lot towards the Dead Horse Beatdown just because I had so much...
It's fun to rant.
I had so much fun with that episode.
Yeah.
And now I know you'll agree with this, but people listening, they have no idea. We've been friends for a while, but we were never like super close friends. And I honestly think doing this, like...
Well, we're friends of friends.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. Friends of friends. And then we decided, hey, I really want to do this. Well, hey, so do I. Well, screw it. Let's try it. And I think that our friendship has built significantly over the past, like...
I was excited you were coming over today. I was.
I was
legitimately excited.
I look forward to recording nights almost as much, no offense, as I do my D&D night. Almost.
Hopefully they're both fun, and that's what we want here. We want it. If we're not having fun, the people listening aren't having.
Oh, absolutely.
Time,
And that I was going to segue right to that. Actually, please write in and let us know what your favorite episode of this year is.
And let us know if you think that there's some things that are kind of a bugaboo for you. Like, man, I'm not sure why they keep doing this or that.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have some critiques. Doesn't mean we're going to change it.
Yep.
But we will definitely take your input into account.
Very early on received input that we talked about superheroes too much, which, yeah, okay, I get it. I mean, there's definitely more to geekdom.
I think it was a go-to geeky
It was something that we both knew very well, so we stuck with it, and I think we've branched out quite a bit, and I'm loving it.
And if you have some ideas for what we should talk about in the future, in a future episode, let us know too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's wrap this up. This is a longer episode. Why not finish the year with a longer episode? What is your most anticipated thing for next year? Book, movie, video games?
I got like 4 different things here.
Oh, good,
One,
because
two, three, four. Four
I
different
got
things.
4 things too. So
And very briefly about them. The Boys season 4 drops next year.
okay,
First seasons were amazing, and the way they left season 3
we'll get to
in Gen
see.
V, man, you got to see season.
We'll get to
4.
see if Homelander's found guilty or innocent.
Yeah, or if he's just going to kill everybody. Who knows? Deadpool 3.
That's on my list.
Man, you gotta see Deadpool. I mean, they're bringing. I mean, you're having the TVA, Wolverine, some older characters jumping in there,
So
supposedly.
circling back to earlier when we were saying about things getting pushed back, from everything I've read, Deadpool 3 is the only MCU movie releasing in 2024. Everything else was pushed to 25.
I'm okay with that. We need.
I agree.
We need to take
break.
a couple breaths.
Yes.
Yes. Doctor Who season 14 series. Well, it's not. They're not seasons. They're series.
Yeah.
Before I go to bed, I've been watching Doctor Who, the one with Jodie Whittaker. And I just finished it up the other day, and it ended. I was like, "What?"
She wasn't my favorite. She wasn't bad, but she wasn't my favorite.
Are you all caught up? Because almost everybody I've talked to that are huge Doctor Who fans, they haven't even I've seen more than they have. So
I stopped at Jodie Whittaker. I haven't watched her yet.
I mean, it's only 3
well,
seasons.
I watched her first series. I mean, I'm not fully through her.
I mean, it's a different guy. I mean, they're bringing back the dude that did the first couple series. So
Moffat or Davies?
Yeah, I think it's Moffat.
Okay.
Or it is Davies. Oh, no, I can't remember. But they're bringing back one of them. And some older Doctor Who people. But, I mean, it's just where I've read that season 14 is going, I'm very excited for. And, of course, Star Trek Discovery is getting its final season. I know it's had its issues. It may not be the best Trek. It's not the worst Trek. But now that they know they're going to their final season, I'm hoping that they go warp 12 and just give everything they got. Give it everything you got, Captain.
Just go ham.
Yeah, just go ham on it. Just throw everything at the wall and send it off in the proper warp direction.
Sure.
Proper hyperspace direction. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Warp bubble. Yeah. Anything else that I didn't mention? Because those are my most anticipated things.
So yeah,
other than seeing the lines in the Super Bowl.
Heavily looking forward to heavily looking forward to Deadpool 3. I mean, everyone's seen the leaked photos of Wolverine. Hugh Jackman's coming back. I mean, the big 20th Century Fox logo crumbled up in the background makes us think that there's definitely going to be a TVA mix here.
Well, the TVA they are in it.
They are confirmed.
Yes,
Is Owen Wilson coming back? Because I loved him.
I heard for a minute, but he's not like a main person, but he's supposed to show up somewhere briefly.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's still okay. As long as
these are all rumors that you hear.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw just recently the new trailer, or the first trailer for Madam Web dropped.
Ooh, the memes.
So,
what the hell is going on?
Made by Sony. Okay, all right. First off, understand, for Sony to keep their Spider-Man ownership, part of the contract is they have to release a Spider-Man.
This is the whole Hellraiser thing all over.
Well, they have to release some type of Spider-Man franchise every so many years. That's why we got Venom 2.
Morbius.
Yeah, Morbius. So they're going Madam Web, which in the comics, Madam Web was a seer. She could see the future. I don't know a lot about her.
I read, when I saw Sydney Sweeney was going to be in this, but they kept saying Sydney Sweeney, Madam Web. That's all they kept saying. I thought she was. I didn't know all these other people were in it and all this. Like, what the hell is even happening?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you go slow and break down the costumes,
this might make less money.
They're pulling a bunch of stuff together.
This is definitely making less money than the Marvels.
I have written down here, please don't suck. I'm hoping that they do this okay. I don't think they will, but we'll see. I mean, I go into everything with high hopes.
Yeah, I'm not going to write it off before I see it, but
we'll see. Next, I have If, not It. If, I-F.
What is If?
A movie coming out May 17th. As of now, May 17th. It is now. I couldn't find a whole lot about it. I don't know if it's animated or if it's live action. But I know there's a lot of voice actors in it.
Interesting.
If stands for Imaginary Friends. It's written by John Krasinski, but partnered with Ryan Reynolds to create it. They're both going to voice characters.
Wait a minute. I might have heard about some rumblings about this.
It follows a young girl who goes through a really difficult experience. I don't know if it's traumatic or what, but she suddenly can see imaginary friends that were like discarded as their people grew
It's
up
like a new Drop Dead Fred.
and forgot about them. That's what I was thinking.
Because that movie was, I don't know how well it's aged, but
I mean, it said that it's going to have Matt Damon and Steve Carell. Steve Carell, Emily Blunt, Aquafina, because she's in literally everything.
Hey, that quiz show movie, I just watched that one. That wasn't too bad.
But it looks like it's actually, from what I've read, I mean, like I said,
good.
I don't know if there's a trailer or not. I haven't seen
I don't
one.
think so.
But everything I read, it should be really, really good. And I mean, come on, it's John Krasinski. He did Quiet Place, and those movies were fantastic, in my opinion. And Ryan Reynolds, who...
Yeah, I mean, he did Detective Pikachu, and he killed it, so...
I liked Green Lantern.
I did too.
Okay. And then finally, Dresden Files. Supposedly, book number 18 is coming out next year.
I thought you were going to say he was going to get in a TV reboot.
I'd be okay with that, but no.
On Hulu TV.
Yeah, it's sci-fi again. I thought book 18 was supposed to come out this year, and now it's next year. I'm hoping it comes out. We'll see if it hits
the award show next year.
Because the last book ended with some pretty heavy stuff happening. Like, it wrapped it up, because each of those books wraps things up, but still leaves like the overarching story open. And it wrapped up some pretty...
Those are chapters in a larger story.
Yeah. And the last book, it dealt with some pretty seriously heavy stuff that happened, like story-changing events. And then we haven't gotten a book in like a year and a half, 2 years.
Well, he's perfecting it.
No, because he's pumping out all of his other books too. He has different stories going on.
I don't know.
But that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, I'm hoping 2024 knocks it out of the park.
I
do.
I believe it will. Deadpool 3 is going to be the up of the year.
Oh, there's no other comic book property that's going to touch it. I'm just telling you, it's not going to happen.
I think what we should do is we'll make our list for end of the year. That way we can keep a running track of stuff as it comes out throughout the year. And at the end of the year,
I'm definitely keeping track better
we
this
can
year,
go
for sure.
back and eliminate.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And I'm going to try to read more comic books next year.
Yeah, hit up treeofgeek.com and contact us. We really do want to hear from you. If you're listening on YouTube, throw it in the comments below.
More friends in the tree fort. It's more fun, man.
Yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit up our Instagram and our Facebook. Please, we want to get more interactive with people. We post.
Watch on YouTube and then watch it again.
Yeah, why not?
Put it on in the background.
We post usually once a week, twice a week on Facebook and Instagram. Hop on and interact with us. We'd love to hear from you.
The more interaction I get, the more I want to give.
Absolutely.
Crickets make me want to go to sleep. So if somebody, we had a guy, should have wrote down his name. We did a post about
Golden Century, I think.
Yeah, the guy that's really into Century, which is really cool. And he had a little conversation back and forth with us.
Oh yeah, he was
Century
very engaging.
And Superman and stuff, and it was cool.
And I hope he's listening.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
That would be really cool. It's cool to just reach out to people you didn't ever.
Let me put it this way: that was the first person we had reach out to us that we don't know.
Right.
And that was cool in itself.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So definitely, reach out to us, follow us, like us, subscribe to us, all the bells and whistles.
Just do all the things.
And if you really like what we're doing, treeofgeek.com, go to the Help Us Grow, and you can support us by donating anywhere from $3 to $10 a month.
Little Miracle Grow, come on, little green Miracle Grow, guys.
we want to get this going, and
I hate asking.
I know, I hate asking, but if we get people helping us out, then we can easily build like a subscriber only section. We have some cool ideas that we could do for subscriber only, but obviously we're not going to do them unless we have a reason to.
Guns and butter. We got to have some supply and demand. Civics class.
Guns and butter?
Yeah, it's old analogy for what societies need when they're. I'm not going into civics class right now.
And on that note,
you can cut that part out.
No, that will stay.
You're gonna keep it in guns and butter, man.
And on
Shout out to Mr. Harden. He's the one who told me.
All right. Well, on that note,
sci-fi.
I hope you guys enjoyed our top picks from the Treefort Awards for 2023. This is the last episode of the year, so we will be signing off, and we will see you again in the new year.
Happy holidays! Enjoy that winter time, and
be safe out there.
Yeah, don't be slipping on the ice unless you guys are really cool and you live in some place where it's warm. Don't drown in the ocean, I guess.
And remember, if you're bored or if you're down and lonely or you're inside all by yourself, go listen to us.
Again.
Reach out. Talk to us.
Talk about beating a dead horse, man. They've already turned this podcast off 20 minutes ago.
All right, screw it.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Thanks for swinging around, guys. We'll see you next time. Later.
like turtles.